Chapter 874. I didn't expect that breaking through to the Sage-to-Be would consume so much resources. Most importantly, after the Sage-to-Be, the resources required for each minor realm breakthrough are no less than the total of the previous ones. Mosquito Dowrin explained dryly. After the Sage-to-Be, the resources required for each minor realm breakthrough are no less than the total of the previous ones. Hearing those words, even though Fang Qingshan had already expected it, he still felt dizzy. He sucked in a breath of cold air and nearly vomited blood. When Daoist words fell into Fang Qingshan's ears, every word was like blood, and every sentence pierced his heart. Putting aside the resources that Mosquito Dowrin had consumed in the past, just the 3 primordial spiritual treasures were enough to break through to the Sage-to-Be realm. Then from the early stage to the middle stage, the late stage, the pinnacle. Fang Qingshan didn't even dare to think about it. In fact, the reason why Mosquito Dowrin consumed so much was because of the balance of the Great Tao. Similarly, Timeless Arc could break through as long as he had enough resources. However, every breakthrough required eternal blessing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to transform at all. Eternal blessing might only last for a short while, but the amount of energy provided was no less than his own consumption. The quality of the energy was also unmatched. On the other hand, Mosquito Dowrin had to rely on himself. Naturally, his consumption would increase exponentially, especially towards the end. When Fang Qingshan met Mosquito Dowrin for the first time, he had only devoured the goddess of Turtle Spirit. He didn't even have time to digest the grade 3 Golden Lotus. How could his cultivation improve so quickly? Fang Qingshan could only say that Mosquito Dowrin's cultivation was low at that time, but he had plenty of energy in origin. After all, he was a living creature of the Blood Sea that was born with the Styx. He didn't dare to raise his cultivation in the Blood Sea to avoid causing a commotion and attracting the attention of the Styx. However, he didn't relax when he devoured the power of the Blood Sea and origin carefully. He did this so that he could soar in the sky after leaving the Blood Sea one day. Damn it, damn it, damn it! When he arrived at the Desolation Factory, it was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his grand plans. I really have a hard life. After a long time, Fang Qingshan came back to his senses and wailed. He had thought that with the gate of eternal life, Mosquito Dowrin would be able to break through and help him in return. However, he did not expect that the revolution had not yet succeeded. Comrades still needed to work hard, and not just work hard, but work even harder. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Fang Qingshan couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, he had arrived at the beginning of the world, and even the Dragon Phoenix tribulation had yet to completely erupt. If he went to the ancient witch and demon age, when the sages were born, the numinous treasures, spiritual roots, and spiritual mountains would basically have owners. There would be no resources for him to plunder. Without the massive amount of resources, who knew how long it would take for Mosquito Dowrin to make a breakthrough? If he planned it well, it might even be possible for him to make it in time for the birth of a sage. What are your plans now? Although Fang Qingshan was secretly cheering himself on, he still asked a little weakly. Seeing Fang Qingshan's bitter and hopeless look, Mosquito Dowrin couldn't help but laugh dryly and then said, I'm going back to the Blood Sea. Speaking of this, Mosquito Dowrin's eyes flashed fiercely. Good and evil would always be rewarded. It was just a matter of time. Back then, because he was born late, he was pressured by Mingi to a precarious state and was like a stray dog. Now, everything should be reversed, and he wanted to take back everything that belonged to him. He also wanted to let him have a taste of what he was like back then. Back to the Blood Sea. Fang Qingshan thought for a while and nodded. It was indeed the best way now. First of all, this was the most suitable choice for Mosquito Dowrin. At this time, Mingi should not have been born. The group of Khanate gods like Mingi should have been born at the end of the primordial age or the beginning of the ancient times. As soon as he was born, he had the cultivation of a perfected golden immortal. At this time, not to mention the fact that he had yet to transform, even if he did, his cultivation base would not be as high as Mosquito Dowrin's. It was even more impossible for him to refine the Blood Sea. If that was the case, Mosquito Dowrin would very likely be able to refine the Styx and become the true master of the Blood Sea. This way, not only would he be able to resolve the knot in his heart, but he would also be able to obtain a large amount of resources. First was luck. The Blood Sea might be a barren land where even birds wouldn't defecate. However, he was the desolation final ruin, carrying and digesting all of the filth. His virtue was boundless. Why was it said that as long as the Blood Sea did not dry up, the Netherworld River would not die? In fact, it was because of this reason. With the importance of the Blood Sea for desolation, who would dare to evaporate the Blood Sea completely? If that happened, even a sage would not be able to escape. Moreover, Mingi had completely refined the Blood Sea and was reborn from a single drop of blood. As long as there was a little bit of blood left, he would not die. Apart from the level of power, he was almost comparable to a saint. Moreover, the Blood Sea would be the location of the 6 paths of reincarnation in the future. He could also use the Blood Sea to create the Shura clan and establish the Shura sect. The Shura was not only one of the 8 divisions of Buddhism, but also one of the 6 paths of reincarnation in the underworld. With all these factors, one could imagine how prosperous the luck was. If Mingi had not lacked some opportunities, it would not have been a problem for him to become a sage. It was a pity that time and fate were just a little short. Other than that, the Blood Sea was also a place with many treasures. Mingi's Yintu, a Vici sword, 12th tier Red Lotus of Fire, Blood Shura flag, Mosquito Doran's elemental water manipulation flag, Death Scythe, etc. Moreover, the origin of the Blood Sea was also a huge resource. Mosquito Dowrin was currently lacking resources. With them, his breakthrough should be much smoother. Moreover, the Dragon Phoenix tribulation had not happened yet, and the battle between Taoists and demons had not started. Fang Qingshan was also prepared to hide for a while, and wait until the cataclysm was at its peak before he could fish in troubled waters. Otherwise, if he were to fish for benefits now, he would not be able to succeed. At that time, the 3 races would probably join forces to hunt him down before the war even started. Although Fang Qingshan felt that with the Timeless Arc, even if the 3 races hunted him down, he would not be afraid. But it was still troublesome. Moreover, the 3 races were the main characters of the world. If he were to be enemies with the main characters, they would be on the side of the world, but he would not be free. After all, his cultivation and ability had not reached the point where he could suppress the world. When that time came, he might even fail miserably. If that's the case, let's go. With that, Mosquito Dowrin led the way, and the 2 rushed toward the Blood Sea. The Blood Sea. Pangu's naval blood was formed by gathering the blood of many chaos demon gods, carrying the bad luck and malevolence of the world. The Blood Sea was billions of miles wide, and the blood waves surged. Fish and prawns did not thrive, birds and insects did not come, and all the malevolence of the world was gathered here. It was even dirtier than the first toilet in the chaotic element Golden Chalice. Ordinarily, golden immortals would not be willing to come here. And because it was not the time for the Blood Sea to appear, ordinary people would not be able to find this place. If it was not for Mosquito Dowrin who knew the way, Fang Qingshan might not have been able to reach the Blood Sea. Should we break the formation? Looking at the Blood Sea that was not much different from the 4 seas of desolation, Fang Qingshan asked. Chapter 875. Above the Blood Sea, the skies seemed to be shorter and the clouds seemed thicker. It was the same for the sun and moon, but when the starlight landed here, it seemed to have dimmed quite a bit. It was a stifling scene. Although the Blood Sea didn't have 4 seas, there were waves surging from time to time, or any giant beast could hit the water for 3,000 miles. The blood that was as viscous as mercury illuminated the entire world in a dark red color. A suffocating stench that was like poisonous smoke made it so that apart from the undead, there were almost no other living beings in this place. It was deathly silent. As of now, there was no 6 paths reincarnation. After a living being died, The lucky ones with high cultivation base could still walk on the path of Yuan Shundao, or possess the body of a living being with precious materials, spiritual treasures, and spiritual roots to be reborn. Those who were unlucky or had a weak cultivation base would either die or be devoured by others, or be refined into magical weapons by the people of the devil cult, or be directly turned into ashes. There are also some who were lucky or unlucky. The departed spirits belonged to Een. The Blood Sea was probably the most suitable place for the departed spirits to live apart from the moon star. Otherwise, reincarnation and the underworld wouldn't have chosen this place. To go to the moon star, one had to pass through the astral wind and lightning layer. Not to mention the departed spirits. Even at their peak, those who weren't golden immortals couldn't do this. Therefore, they were basically attracted to the Blood Sea by the evil energy of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, although the Blood Sea could prevent the departed spirits from dissipating, it wasn't some paradise. After all, the Blood Sea was a blood sea, not the underworld of reincarnation. Even the underworld had the 10 kings of hell and the 18 levels of hell. Entering the Blood Sea, one would first be enslaved by the evil energy of the Blood Sea day and night. It was extremely painful. The ferocious ghost faces struggled and roared. It was as if they had fallen into an endless hell, but they could no longer escape. There were only 2 ways to escape. One was to wait for the earth to reincarnate in the future. The other was to wait for Mingi to imitate Nuwa and create the Azura clan. However, to persevere until then, it depended on luck and strength. Entering the Blood Sea didn't mean that there was nothing to worry about, although no one here used them to refine Dharma treasures. But there were also internal and external troubles. At the same time, he had to resist the corrosion of the Blood Sea. Otherwise, his consciousness would be erased by the Blood Sea and he would return to his origin, turning into the origin energy of the Blood Sea. At the same time, he also had to fight against the undead. Natural selection, survival of the fittest. By devouring one another, not only could they resist the corrosion of the Blood Sea, they could live longer and strengthen themselves. If he could really devour the souls of the dead and strengthen himself to a certain level, it might not be impossible for him to walk the path of cultivation again. Unfortunately, such opportunities were few and far between. Fang Qingshan did not enter the Blood Sea rashly. It was not because he was scared, but because there was a huge array protecting the Blood Sea. This formation covered the entire Blood Sea. With the Blood Sea as its foundation, the blood water would corrode one's physical body and the baleful aura would corrode one's primordial spirit. With this 2-pronged attack, anyone who was not a quasi-sage or possessed an ultimate treasure would most likely die if they were to fall into it. Although the 9 Bends Yellow River Formation was also a top-notch formation, there was still a huge gap between it and this formation. At the same time, it was also because of the protection of the Blood Sea Formation that the secrets of heaven were not revealed. Very few people came to this barren land and discovered this place. No need. Mosquito Dowrin waved his hand and said confidently, "You just have to follow me." Although Mosquito Dowrin did not become the master of the Blood Sea, because he was born late, he still had the Blood Sea Formation in his inherited memory. Otherwise, how could he hide and escape so easily without being discovered by the Underworld River? It was because of his familiarity with the terrain, the fact that the Underworld River did not think in that direction, and the concealment of the Origin Will, that Mosquito Dowrin could linger on at death's door. Fang Qingshan put away the timeless arc and followed behind Mosquito Dowrin with the Xianyuan water manipulation flag. Good Lord, the Blood Sea was indeed the gathering place of the negative origin of the world of desolation. The greater the tribulation, the more dangerous it was. Fang Qingshan felt that the baleful aura here was even stronger than that of the outside world. If not for the fact that the Blood Sea was constantly digesting the negative origin, it would have exploded if it had continued to bear the pressure. Mosquito Dowrin entered the Blood Sea like a fish in water. The baleful aura, which made others pale at the mention of it, did not harm him at all. Instead, it was as if he had eaten a ginseng fruit. All the pores on his body relaxed, and he could not help but moan. Why do I feel so uneasy today? In the depths of the Blood Sea, there was a blood-colored palace. This place was somewhat similar to Ro's lair on Mount Meru. Sword Chi soared into the sky with unparalleled killing intent. Baleful aura and blood chi wantonly. It was obvious that this was the old Devil's Cave abode. Anyone below the golden immortal level, without the protection of a merit treasure, would probably have their primordial spirit disintegrated on the spot. This was the core of the entire Blood Sea, equivalent to the core control room, where the Timeless Ark's eternal lightning pool was located. It was also the birthplace of Patriarch Nether River. At this moment, Nether River had already taken human form and had the cultivation of an early-stage Zenith Heaven. Since Hong Jun Tiandao was incomplete, there was naturally no such thing as a heavenly tribulation of form. As long as he did not expose himself, he would naturally not alarm others. Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals were not weak at any time, but they were still just slightly stronger ants in the cataclysm. The great God-conferment tribulation aside, Zhao Gongming, Yun Xiao, the goddess of turtle spirit, and the others were all Zenith Heavenly Immortals. Furthermore, they had not just entered the Zenith Heavenly Immortals and died during the great God-conferment tribulation. If Nether River dared to go out now, he would most likely die even if he had the 12th tier Red Lotus of Fire and was unaffected by the baleful aura. Therefore, although Nether River had taken human form, he did not come out. Instead, he stayed obediently in the Blood Sea, cultivating as he refined it. If he could completely refine the Blood Sea, not only would he become the master of the Blood Sea, he would be blessed with fortune and break through his cultivation. He would also obtain the most powerful, life-saving divine ability. As long as the Blood Sea did not wither, Nether River would not die, and his status would be comparable to that of a saint. It was the same for Sanqing, Zhun Yuanzi, Dijun, Tai Yi, Kuanpeng, and the others. They cultivated peacefully in the blessed grotto heavens and immortal mountains. They did not want to be attacked by the baleful aura and be doomed eternally. Such a cataclysm might not be enough to achieve Origin Immortal Realm, but there was a high chance that one would fail miserably if they were not careful. The Dragon Phoenix Cataclysm had not only killed the ancestral dragon, Heavenly Phoenix, Qilin, Yin Yang, Qinquan, Five Elements, and many others. Even the ancestral patriarchs of Hongjun and Ro had perished. This was especially true for the ancestral patriarchs of Yin Yang and Qinquan. Both of them had the Khanate cardinal treasures, the Taiji painting, and the cauldron of heaven and earth. Even so, they still could not escape death. One could imagine how tragic the cataclysm was. It was no wonder that even saints paled at the mention of it. Logically speaking, with the protection of the Blood Sea formation, the 12th tier Red Lotus of Fire, and the Yuantu Sword of Avicii, Nether River should be safe as long as he did not leave the Blood Sea. That was indeed the case. If not for the variable Fong Qingshan, Nether River would not have survived. Relying on the fortune of the Blood Sea and the treasures in his possession, as well as his prudence, Nether River survived several cataclysms. Chapter 876. There were 3,000 palace guests in the Purple Cloud Palace, and Mingi was one of the few who, apart from the sages, had survived the tribulation like Zenyuanzi and the Kuanping. Even when he was targeted by the Buddhists, he could still live a carefree life. Unfortunately, times changed. As Taoist when entered the Blood Sea, Mingi's eyelids twitched like rapid drum beats, and his breathing became labored. Out of nowhere, the shadow of death actually shrouded him. How is this possible? I don't leave the Blood Sea, and I don't get involved in karma. Why would I be killed? Mingi couldn't figure it out, no matter how he thought about it. Even if there is karma, I have the Red Lotus of Hellfire with me. What karma can't be broken? Although he had not completely refined the Blood Sea, he had the geographical advantage. Other than Yang Mei, Hongjun, and Ro, even the leaders of the Dragon Clan and the Phoenix Clan would not be able to do anything to him. The Red Lotus of Hellfire in his hand was the nemesis of karma. Even compared to the primordial treasures, it was outstanding in this aspect. Mingi was really at a loss. Could it be that something happened to the Blood Sea itself? Since it was not an external cause, it could only be an internal cause. However, the blood sea might be dangerous for others, but it was like a fish in water for him. What danger could there be? However, the feeling of uneasiness was getting stronger and stronger. It almost made Patriarch Mingi lose his mind. No, I have to go out and check every inch of space. Since it was a sudden inspiration, I must not let my guard down. It was better to be safe than sorry. Mingi made up his mind and was about to take action. Rumble, the entire blood sea hall shook. Even Mingi was stunned and exclaimed, "What's going on? Mingi, your old friend is here. Come out and greet me." Then, he heard a voice that seemed to have been suppressed for a long time. It was the voice of a villain intoxicated by success. This finally brought Mingi back to his senses. He had been preoccupied with deducing what had triggered the sudden inspiration crisis. But in a moment of carelessness, someone had actually come knocking on his door. Never in his wildest dreams would Mingi have imagined that someone would be able to pass through the Blood Sea formation without making a sound, cross half of the Blood Sea, and arrive at the door without him noticing at all. Looks like I wasn't cautious enough and arrogant enough. Mingi thought to himself. He had originally thought that with the Blood Sea array and the Blood Sea, even if he had yet to completely refine the Blood Sea, no one would be able to sneak into his hinterland without alerting him. Unfortunately, accidents often happened in the most unexpected places. In fact, he couldn't be blamed. If it wasn't for Mosquito Dowrin, even if Hong Jun, Ro, or even Yang Mei were here, they wouldn't be able to come here quietly. After all, Mosquito Dowrin was a creature of the Blood Sea, just like him. Moreover, he was one of the only two creatures outside of the Nether River that could compete with him for the position of Master of the Blood Sea. Naturally, he knew how to avoid the formation without alerting Mingi. Is this the crisis I have to face? After Mosquito Dowrin spoke, Mingi finally confirmed the source of the crisis. I'd like to see who dares to provoke me. Mingi sneered. He was very confident in his own means. Although he was surprised how when Taoist managed to enter the hinterland without alerting him, he was almost invincible in the Blood Sea. Mingi sneered. Swoosh! Mingi stood up and released his chi power. He held the Yuan-Tu Avicii sword with both hands, the 12th grade Hellfire Red Lotus above his head, and wrapped in the blood-red Shura flag. With a wave of his hand, he opened the door of the Blood Sea Hall and walked out. Looking up, he saw a Taoist with a similar aura to him. Those who didn't know would think that they were brothers, looking at him with a faint smile. However, he couldn't see through his chi power. There was another companion beside him. Although his aura was not as strong as the one in front of him, he was also stronger than him. Where did these two experts come from? Who were they? How did he find the Blood Sea and come here without a sound? And judging from the Heavenly Secrets warning, I'm afraid they're not friendly. Mingi was shocked. For a moment, thousands of thoughts ran through his mind. Although Mingi didn't leave the Blood Sea, he knew everything in the world when he was at home. Unlike the others, he had a blood god son. Although his main body couldn't leave, it didn't matter if the blood god son was destroyed. It didn't matter if one more or one less. With the Blood Sea's origin, he could refine another one at any time. Therefore, Mingi had some understanding of the world's general trend and experts. However, Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin had never heard of it. They didn't have a matching person in their mind. What a great master of the Blood Sea. He's really amazing. Mosquito Dowrin looked Mingi up and down for the first time and sighed. Although Mosquito Dowrin hated Mingi, he had to admit that he was a genius. He was born in primitive times and had already started to refine the origin of the Blood Sea. Although he didn't even have 1/10 of it, his cultivation was only at the early stage of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, which was already commendable. Unfortunately, divine sense is no match for heaven. Heaven also changes. What's more, Hongjun Tiandao isn't complete yet. After a little sigh, Mosquito Dowrin calmed down and said casually, "What do you mean?" Mingi frowned and looked at Mosquito Dowrin. Listening to his incoherent and irrelevant words, he was a little puzzled. "What do I mean? It's simple. We're interested in the Blood Sea." Mosquito Dowrin smiled. "What?" Mingi couldn't believe his ears. "You're not joking, are you?" "Joking? We don't have time to joke with you. The mosquito Taoist shook his head. Regardless of the enmity between him and the Netherworld River or the fact that the Netherworld River was a piece of meat that he could easily obtain, the mosquito Taoist did not want to continue talking nonsense. Taking down Mingi, obtaining the treasure, refining the blood sea, and gaining the light of providence was the only way he could make a better plan. Why did Fang Qingshan know so much about the unregistered people who entered the alternate world through Hong Jun Tiandao's loopholes? They could either hide in the new world, advance step by step, and be cautious. They could also directly make a Dao oath and completely return to the original world. It was because once Hong Jun Tiandao targeted them, it would be very troublesome even if they had the strength of primordial chaos. Although there were 50 great Daos and 49 heavenly evolutions, there was a chance of survival. However, no matter who it was, they would not have a good impression of things that they couldn't control. It was the same for Hong Jun Tiandao. Outliers were variables that were difficult to control. Even a godly person like Yang may have to leave the chaos world after being targeted by Hong Jun Tiandao. Fang Qingshan didn't think that he could withstand Hong Jun Tiandao's emergence. Even if he could withstand it, Fang Qingshan was afraid of trouble. Chapter 877. One could be a thief for 1,000 days, but one could not guard against a thief for 1,000 days. Being watched by a person every day who would play tricks on you at any time. And this person was from Hong Jun Tiandao, whom you could not defeat and could not afford to offend. No one would want to provoke this kind of trouble. The reason why he was not targeted as an anomaly in the past was actually very simple. When he was apatheicized, he was only an earth immortal. Such an anomaly was too weak to attract the attention of Hong Jun Tiandao. Anyone could kill him, let alone Hong Jun Tiandao. Hong Jun Tiandao naturally did not care. What was more, he followed the will of the people and joined West Qi. He had great power and was Laozi's disciple. If he did not seek trouble, he would not die. During the journey to the west, although he changed the situation, he did not go against the general trend. What's more, Hong Jun Tiandao had retired, and Laozi, the sage who represented God in Mu Shou, was supporting him. Plus, he was strong enough, so there was no problem. But now, Fang Qingshan, Mosquito Daoren, and the timeless arc were enough to attract the attention of Hong Jun Tiandao. After all, this combination already had the ability to break the balance of heaven and earth and go against the general trend. Therefore, a reasonable identity was needed. If Mosquito Daoren became the master of the Blood Sea, it would not be a problem. At least he would not be targeted by Hong Jun Tiandao. Looking at Mingi's face full of disbelief, as if he had lost his mind, Mosquito Daoren said faintly, 2 choices. First, swear to pledge allegiance to me. Never betray me until your level of cultivation is lower than mine. Second, die. 1,000 cups were too little when drinking with a bosom friend, but half a word was too much when the conversation did not go well. Mosquito Daoren did not want Mingi to do something desperate, so he gave him some leeway. He promised that if Mingi's level of cultivation was higher than his, he could get rid of the shackles. However, this promise was completely useless, just like missing one side in a battle. This was because Mosquito Daoren's cultivation was now lower than his. Now that he had lost his position as the master of the Blood Sea, it would be even more difficult for him to catch up. If Mosquito Daoren wanted to improve his cultivation, he only needed to gnaw on a few spiritual treasures. Naturally, Mingi didn't know what Mosquito Daoren was planning to do, and he didn't care about it at all, because it was impossible for him to agree to this request. Not everyone could put down their pride like Randang. He became the disciple of a former fellow disciple. In any case, this person had already become a sage. What did Mosquito Daoren do to make the stick surrender? As the primordial deity and the master of the Blood Sea, it was not impossible for Mingi to become a saint. Naturally, he had his pride. Not to mention a strange person like Mosquito Daoren. Even a saint would not be able to enslave him. Otherwise, in the future, Juni would be enslaving the two of them just because they were interested in the red lotus of karmic fire. If he was a soft-hearted person, he would have given up his wealth to avoid disaster. But Mingi didn't. Even if he was forced to be an otaku, and even if Xidagarba blocked the door, he was willing to do so. At this point, obviously, he couldn't be kind anymore. Mingi was so angry that he laughed. You actually want to take my position as the master of the Blood Sea? How dare you? Who gave you the courage? Not to mention you. Even the patriarchs of the Dragon and Phoenix clans don't have the ability to do so. I'm a master of the Blood Sea. With the Blood Sea formation, even if the 3 clans send troops to invade, I can still keep them out. Humph, there is a way to heaven, but you don't take it. You come to hell when there is no door. How dare you set your eyes on the ancestor? It seems that you're destined to have this tribulation. Heaven wants to use me to destroy you. Mingi's voice became louder and louder, and the Yuantu Avicii's sword in his hand hummed without moving. The murderous aura penetrated his body, making people shudder. For a moment, the entire Blood Sea was filled with blood waves, and the murderous aura was soaring. The surging blood waves connected to the Milky Way, and the murderous aura leisurely flowed through the veins of the earth. The surging blood waves were like thunder roaring in spring. The wails of ghosts and the howls of wolves sounded like a gale blowing through the 9 summers. Not only that, because of the movement of the Blood Sea, the murderous aura in the world also became violent. The 3 realms were shaking, and the murderous aura in the world suddenly increased. The progress of the Great Tribulation skyrocketed. The Cultivation Tribulation, which originally needed about 1,000 years to erupt, was shortened by 10 times in an instant. At this moment, the 3 clans of the Dragon and Phoenix, as well as Hongjun, were all shocked. Because even at the level of the ancestral dragon and the heavenly phoenix, with the blessing of providence and the protection of supreme treasures, they couldn't resist the attack of the murderous aura. There was only one temptation and one thought in their minds, and that was to kill their way into the world, to unify the desolation, to obtain the blessing of providence, and to achieve the mixed essence. Even Ro, who was eager to see the world in chaos, felt that it seemed to be out of his control. Chaos wasn't scary, but it was scary that he couldn't control it. If that was the case, it would be easy for others to benefit themselves. How could selfish people be willing to harm themselves to benefit others? The only one who didn't have to worry about anything was Yang Ming. He had seen the great tribulation of creation. So what if the Dragon and Phoenix tribulation was 10 times more intense? Moreover, the more intense the great tribulation, the better. In the end, Hongjun Tiandao might have to borrow his hands to clean up the mess. If that was the case, Hongjun Tiandao would owe karma. He had to pinch his nose and suppress the blessing of providence. That way, his injuries could recover faster. The 3 clans of the Dragon and Phoenix? They're just pawns under Hongjun Tiandao, the pioneers for the king. Moreover, even if they can't do it, it doesn't mean that others can't. Mosquito Doran's face was full of disdain when he talked about the 3 clans of the Dragon and Phoenix. Although the 3 clans had a strong momentum now, they were just pawns in the hands of Ro and Hongjun. Once the Dragon and Phoenix tribulation was over, they had to suppress the world obediently. Although their fate was endless, it would be difficult for them to rise again. In the future, Tung Wang Kung would lead all the male immortals in the world and set up the East Sea. The Heavenly Court would unify the Demon Clan and deal with the Dragon Clan. Later, when Hao Yan ascended the throne, the Dragon Clan still had to submit to him. That was not bad. The 8 immortals crossed the sea. Neza created havoc in the sea. Monkey Sun robbed the Dragon Palace, and so on. However, in comparison, the Dragon Clan at least had some fame, while the Phoenix and Shilin clans had become legends. This tribulation is fated to happen. I think you're facing a great disaster. As for why, dear? Haven't you noticed? I'm also a creature of the Blood Sea. Mosquito Doran replied calmly. We're both creatures of the Blood Sea. Your cultivation is not as good as mine, and your divine sense is not as good as mine. You haven't completely refined the Blood Sea. Even your spiritual treasure is not as good as mine. Tell me, who gave me the courage? What? Impossible. Hearing Mosquito Doran's words, Mingy opened his eyes wide. Although he sensed a familiar aura from Mosquito Doran, he only thought that Mosquito Doran practiced the way of blood and the way of killing. He did not think that Mosquito Doran was also a creature of the Blood Sea. After Mingy was born, he did not go out to explore, but he basically controlled the Blood Sea. Although he did not completely refine the origin of the Blood Sea, he knew what was in the Blood Sea and what was not. However, he did not expect that Mosquito Doran was a creature of the Blood Sea. Chapter 878. Everyone knew that Mingy was the only living being in the Blood Sea. Even Mingy thought so. The Blood Sea was filled with luck and many treasures. But it wasn't a good place to live. Not to mention ordinary people, cultivators, and even people of the fiendish Tao would avoid this place like snakes and scorpions. After all, this was where the negative energy of heaven and earth gathered. The blood water that corroded the physical body and the evil energy that corroded the primordial spirit were ignored. The entanglement of karma alone was enough to make people retreat. If one wasn't careful, they would go berserk and be doomed eternally. It wasn't until later when Mingy imitated Nuwa and created the Azura clan that the Blood Sea became lively. The Azura clan was able to live well in the Blood Sea. It wasn't just because they were created by Mingy with the essence of the Blood Sea. Moreover, it was because they were similar to the shaman tribe. They fought the heavens and the earth, and they were not afraid of karma. They walked the path of slaughter, and they did not care about karma, ghosts, gods, humans, the earth, the heavens, the Tao, themselves, and everything else. So long as they achieved this, they could prove their Tao by killing. Since they could kill even heaven, earth, humans, deities, ghosts, and even themselves, they naturally didn't care about karma. It was a pity that heaven, earth, humans, deities, and ghosts were easy to deal with. Tao, on the other hand, was troublesome. While the killing path didn't have to be completely destroyed, it had to be broken. This was similar to becoming a Daluo Golden Immortal. First, one had to break through Hongjun Tian Dao in order to form their own Dao. It was difficult and dangerous. As for killing oneself, it was even stranger. If one killed oneself, how could one achieve Dao without a life? Therefore, whether it was Rahu or Mingy, neither of them could do it. Therefore, the Blood Sea had always been a desolate place since ancient times. It was a place where even birds wouldn't defecate. Speaking of which, Mingy didn't even know of the existence of Mosquito Doran after the dragon, phoenix, lich, or the War of the Gods, let alone now. This was a form of balance under Hongjun Tiandao. Although Mingy couldn't completely refine the Blood Sea by suppressing Mosquito Doran, it also gave him a chance. If he could become a sage, all the uncertainties wouldn't be a problem. It would be easy to find Mosquito Doran, refine, or subdue him. It was a pity that Mingy didn't seize the opportunity despite sitting on such a large amount of the Blood Sea's fate and wasted it. If he didn't take what heaven gave him, he would be punished. Since he couldn't break through, Taoist one became the shackles that prevented Mingy from breaking through to the primordial chaos. As a result, Mingy imitated Goddess Nviwa to create the Azura tribe, imitated 3 pure ones to guide Junti, established the Azura sect, and even became the master of the 6 Tao of Samsara. It wasn't just because of the primordial violet energy, nor was it because his studies were a bit mixed. Not only did he cultivate the Tao of blood and slaughter, he also wanted to walk the path of merit and establish a sect to become a saint. More importantly, without Taoist Win's source, the great Tao wasn't complete. Even when the opportunity was gone, Hongjun Tiandao would stop him. Otherwise, with the Blood Sea's luck, even if he couldn't become a sage, he could at least become an omnipotent person like Hutu. The omnipotent person had no self, the divine man had no merit, and the sage had no name. The omnipotent person forgot himself and became one with all things, which was equivalent to the sage integration. At least in the Blood Sea, it was like Hutu in the underworld. Even a sage couldn't do well. He couldn't rely on the blood sea and Mingy's undying cockroach. He could only be beaten. Even after Juni was brought in and grounded, he was still suppressed by Duobao and Xidagarba. How is it possible? How is it possible? Mingy looked suspicious and shook his head. He couldn't believe that there were other living creatures in the blood sea under his absolute control. However, the truth was right in front of him. He had no choice but to believe it. If Mosquito Dowrin wasn't a living creature of the blood sea, how could he make him feel so familiar and compatible? He even wanted to devour him? If he wasn't a living creature of the blood sea, how could he be like a fish in water in the blood sea? Even Wu people might not be able to do that. Fang Qingshan's cultivation was higher than his, but he still had to rely on the mystic essence water-controlling flag, a top-notch defensive treasure, to enter and exit the blood sea. Mosquito Dowrin didn't have any defensive measures and seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll in the blood sea. More importantly, if he wasn't a living creature of the blood sea and had the inheritance of the blood sea, how could he understand the blood sea array, pass through it silently, and arrive in front of his cave abode? Whether you believe it or not, it's the truth. Looking at Mingy, who was doubting his life, Mosquito Dowrin felt that his entire body, from his toes to the top of his head, was transparent. Who asked you to suppress me back then? You were a coward to outsiders, but you were a tyrant to us. What you couldn't do back then, I will definitely not let anyone bully the lineage of the blood sea. No. Mingy suddenly thought of a loophole. If you're a living creature of the blood sea, how could you not refine the origin of the blood sea until now? Mingy stared at him without blinking, as if trying to find a loophole. Mosquito Dowrin couldn't help but roll his eyes. Was he supposed to tell him that it wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't do it in the past, and it was too late now? After I was born, I left the blood sea. I thought I would refine it after I came back, but I didn't expect another living creature to be born in the blood sea and even occupy it. Mosquito Dowrin sneered. If you know what's good for you, hand over the origin and submit to me. Otherwise, kill. Although Mosquito Dowrin didn't finish his sentence, his killing intent was already overflowing. Mingy naturally had to make the first move. Immediately, he turned into a monstrous blood sea, intending to use the power of the blood sea to deal with Mosquito Dowrin. He couldn't see through Mosquito Dowrin's cultivation, but he knew that it was far above him. If he couldn't use the blood sea, he might really be in trouble today. Fortunately, he had refined the origin of the blood sea and could mobilize the power of the blood sea. You overestimate yourself. Mosquito Dowrin couldn't help but smile disdainfully. It would be fine if he had completely refined the blood sea. Now, the power of the blood sea, which others avoided like snakes and scorpions, was like arsenic to him. Rumble, faced with the power of the blood sea that could corrode one's body and soul, Mosquito Dowrin didn't dodge at all. Instead, he displayed his true form, the blood-winged black mosquito. He allowed the blood chi and killing intent to hit him, but a scene that broke Mingy's heart happened. The blood chi and killing intent that could destroy a golden immortal's immortal attribute and a transcendent zenith heaven couldn't avoid entered Mosquito Dowrin's body like a bird flying into a forest. Not only did it not harm Mosquito Dowrin, but it seemed to be helping him cultivate instead. This feels great. Mingy, is that all you've got? Continue. Daoist moaned in comfort and said, You're right. He really is from the blood sea. How is this possible? Mingy couldn't help but frown when he saw that the power of the blood sea couldn't harm Mosquito Dowrin. Instead, it was like throwing a meat bun at a dog. Chapter 879. Forget it. Whether he's from a blood sea or not, I'll take him down first. No matter what Mosquito Dowrin's identity was, he and Mingy were destined to be enemies until one of them died. Because he understood the blood sea formation, he could move freely in the blood sea. With this alone, Mingy wanted to keep Mosquito Dowrin here. Otherwise, Mingy might not be able to eat or sleep well in the future. After all, no one wanted someone to sneak up on them silently. Their lives were in the hands of others. Seeing that ordinary attacks could not do anything to Mosquito Dowrin, Mingy immediately changed his strategy. Kill. Mingy first took out the two peerless killing swords, Yuan-Tu and Avicii. Clang, clang, clang. The clanging sound of swords lingered in the ears. The sword Chi soared into the sky, piercing through the universe and falling into the galaxy. Although it was unparalleled, it did not carry any worldly aura. It seemed to separate heaven and earth, yin and yang, and cut off life and death. Only endless darkness remained. As the sword light moved, the entire blood sea seemed to be mobilized. The blood sea boiled, and turbid waves pierced the sky, stirring up clouds and smoke like arrows. The fog covered the sky, the dead souls scattered, and the raging waves beat against the shore. A demonic, blood-colored crescent moon rose slowly, and the blood light poured down like mercury. It was sticky and bloody, giving people a creepy feeling. After a while, as the blood sea surged, there was a faint murmur. After 3 to 5 breaths, it turned into a sharp cry, mixed with the sound of ghosts. The sky collapsed, and dark clouds covered the sky. It was as if hell had arrived, and thousands of ghosts were stirring up the world. Without using the timeless arc, a mighty force fell from the sky, instantly dragging Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin into an unfamiliar space. Blood Sea Formation. After knowing that ordinary methods could not deal with Fong Qingshan, Mingi made a prompt decision and mobilized the Blood Sea Formation. He also used the 2 peerless killing swords, Yuan-Tu and Avicii, to suppress the formation, increasing its attack power. Go! Following that, Mosquito Dowrin pulled at his body and threw the Blood Azura flag into it. While strengthening the defense, it also increased the changes in the array formation. In a trance, Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin smelled an eerie fragrance, and a soft female voice seemed to be whispering in their ears. Then they saw beautiful girls walking over, their jewelry jingling. Seeing this scene, how could Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin not know that this was the Blood Sea Formation mobilizing the power of lust? Sure enough, these young girls walked over leisurely. Their clothes fluttered, and their gauze danced. Their graceful figures were faintly discernible, and the skin that was exposed was as smooth as fine porcelain. Their slender waists and undulating peaks emitted a shocking charm. Even though Mosquito Dowrin and Fong Qingshan were knowledgeable and had a firm Taoist heart, and they knew that this was the effect of the array formation, they could not help but feel short of breath when they were caught off guard. Although it was quickly suppressed by Fong Qingshan, as soon as his Taoist heart moved, there was a flaw. The aura of lust seemed to be pervasive. In an instant, it silently passed through the barrier and entered Fong Qingshan's Naiwan Palace. If it was not for the protection of the infinite merit in the celestial chessboard, it would have instantly triggered his primordial spirit and ignited the fire in his heart. He could not wait to throw himself into the battle. Otherwise, the fire of lust would burn him. As if sensing the changes in Fong Qingshan's body, the array formation operated even more vigorously. The young girls were either enchanting and moving, or as cold as the moon, or as cold as an orchid, or as rich as a peony, or as thorny as a rose, or as a pretty daughter from a humble family. But no matter which type they were all so charming that they could put the moon and flowers to shame. As long as you could not think of it, there was no array formation that could not be developed. The power of lust was ever-changing. It was extremely strange and impossible to guard against. As the saying went, even heroes had a weakness for the charms of beauties. Since ancient times, it was unknown how many people with lofty ideals and great heroes had fallen to lust and lust. As long as Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin were willing, these beauties could immediately take off their clothes and go to the mountains with them. Good Lord, this is only me. I have the supreme treasure to suppress my luck and infinite merit. The tribulation chi and malevolent chi cannot invade me. Sensing the changes in the array formation, Fong Qingshan could not help but sigh. If it was someone else, I'm afraid even the dragon ancestor might fall for it. Although the Tao of lust was not strong in killing, it was even more corrosive. It could silently and imperceptibly destroy one's primordial spirit. Unfortunately, this method is still not enough to deal with us. Slash. Mosquito Daoran and Fong Qing Shan yelled at the same time. A sharp sword that seemed illusory yet real, filled with endless wisdom, appeared out of nowhere and slashed from afar. Crack! All the chi of lust melted like snow in winter meeting the sun in spring. Wielding the sword of wisdom, he cut off the threads of lust. Transform. In the center of the array, Mingyi saw that this method could not do anything to Fong Qing Shan. He immediately changed his hand sign. In an instant, the beauties who were a feast for the eyes just now immediately changed. All of them had green faces and fangs, holding mourning sticks and spirit-summoning banners. They wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves, and dark clouds rolled. For a moment, the netherworld, hundreds of ghosts devoured the body, the 18 levels of hell, and all kinds of torture appeared one after another, entangling the body. Don't think that these were all illusions. As the saying goes, when the false is true, the true is false. When there is nothing, there is nothing. If you think that it is false, once you're really unprepared or reveal a flaw, the false will immediately become true. The damage caused by the array is not an illusion. If you think that it is true, it may be false. If you can't break the array, you will be exhausted to death. Refining the false into the real, transforming the false into the real. Unfortunately, it still doesn't work. Fong Qing Shan shook his head. As expected, there was no need for Fong Qing Shan to do anything. Mosquito Daoran flapped his wings. However, a buzzing sound like thunder was heard, no weaker than the sound of the waves in the blood sea. Then, a black cloud flew out from Mosquito Daoran's body, and even the light of the blood moon seemed to be covered. After a while, it scattered in all directions like an explosion. It pounced toward the evil spirits around it. Regardless of whether it is true or not, it will treat it as if it is true and directly swallowed it with its mouthpiece. Blood God. Seeing this scene, Mingyi was shocked. At the same time, he confirmed the identity of Mosquito Daoran. Only they, who were born in the blood sea, knew that method. It was just like how Sanqing Qi was the symbol of Ren School. Although Mosquito Daoran's clone was not the blood god, the two had the same effect. After all, the blood god also had the effect of devouring flesh and blood. As long as he pounced on living beings, he would only be left with skin if he was not careful. Die, die, die. However, after confirming the identity of Mosquito Daoran, the killing intent in Mingyi's eyes condensed. Not everyone who was born of the same origin could treat each other with sincerity like Fuxing Yuhua and Zhuani. As the saying goes, two tigers cannot live on the same mountain. How can others sleep soundly beside the bed? The best outcome would be to chase others away or devour them directly. Chapter 880. In the journey to the West World, if not for Fong Qing Shan defying the heavens and changing his fate, the six-eared macaque's final outcome would have been to be indulged by Tathagata and the others, killed by Sun Wukong and stealing his life's creation. They were all the four chaotic spiritual monkeys. If they could devour each other, not only would their cultivation levels improve greatly, they could even replenish their source energy. It turned out that this was what happened in the trajectory. After the journey to the West, the Monkey King became the victorious fighting Buddha and became one of the top experts under many treasures. He was a true protector of Buddhism. The same went for Mingyi and Mosquito Daoran. There was only one Lord of the Blood Sea, and there were two of them. Just like the throne, only one person could sit on it. For the sake of the throne, he killed his own brother and father. The 9 dragons fought for the throne, and so on. He used all kinds of martial arts, all kinds of conspiracies, and all kinds of magical abilities. This was only the throne of the mortal world, not to mention the master of the Blood Sea, which was the karma rank of heaven and earth, second only to the sage's fruit of way. Although the Lord of the Blood Sea was inferior to the primordial violet Qi, it was still the foundation of the great Tao. Even if he became the Lord of the Blood Sea, he wouldn't be able to become a saint. However, if he was lucky, he could become an omnipotent being. In the Blood Sea, he would be Hong Jun Tiandao. Even a saint wouldn't be able to do anything to him. At the very least, the blood sea wouldn't dry up and the underworld river wouldn't die. He would be like the three sovereigns of the human race. All the hustle and bustle in the world is for profit, and all the hustle and bustle in the world is for profit. Not to mention, it was for the sake of the great Tao. Therefore, there was an irreconcilable conflict between Styx and mosquito Taorin. This was the contradiction of proving the Tao. The great Tao is a solitary path, and only one person can walk on it. Why did I plot against Kong, Xian's 5 needles? Not only would this item be of great help to Fang Qingshan, but it could also attack Kong Xian and indirectly help Fang Qingshan. With this, Fang Qingshan's chances of winning increased a little. Therefore, between Mingyi and Mosquito Taorin, unless one of them withdrew, they would not be able to win. But who would be willing to do such a thing? The great Taos were fighting. 1,000 sails competition, 100 barges vying to flow. If he took a step back, he would not be able to enjoy the boundless sea and sky. Instead, he would have no fate with the great Tao. It was just like when the Purple Cloud Palace started the lecture. Initially, Hong Yin was lucky enough to get a spot. If she had persevered and grasped the fateful encounters, it would not have been impossible for her to attain the way. However, because she gave in, she allowed Junti to guide the two of them to steal the fateful encounters. Not only did she lose her foundation to become a saint, she even lost her life. Junti and Juan-Yin, who had benefited from him, not only did not repay him properly, but they also turned a blind eye to his death. 1 liter of rice is good, but 1 bucket of rice is evil. The karma of the primordial violet chi was so great that the Buddhists couldn't pay it back at all. The best solution was to end everything once and for all. As long as Hong Yun was dead, this karma would naturally be severed. Therefore, when faced with the great Tao, retreating would not solve the problem. Change. Mingyi changed his gesture again. In a split second, within the formation, whether it was a feast for the eyes, or the frightening ghosts, or the monstrous sea of blood, or the mournful howls, or the blood moon hanging high in the sky, or even time and space, everything vanished like a bubble in a puff of smoke. The entire world was empty, clean, and silent. It was a deathly silence. There was no earth, wind, water, fire, heaven, earth, sun, and moon, no living creatures and no sound. There was only loneliness and solitude that seeped deep into the bones. Even the reincarnation of time did not exist. It seemed to be eternal and unchanging throughout the ages. Seeing this change in the matrix, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dorn's expressions finally turned serious. Although the beautiful ghosts in front of them were not bad, compared to this change in nothingness, they paled in comparison. In the past, Fang Qingshan had heard of a method of confinement. There was no beating or scolding, but only a small dark room for a period of time. However, people's expressions changed at the mention of it. Even the most strong-willed person would have a mental breakdown after a long time. Not to mention mortals. It was rumored that the reason why Pan Gu created the world was because there was no life in the chaos. The chaos was too vast, and there were too few living creatures. It was too desolate. One could imagine how terrifying this emptiness and loneliness was. There was no change, no color, no sound, nothing, and no hope. It was like a living dead. Faced with this situation, it was simply a rhythm that could drive people crazy. If one wanted to break through this obstacle, they could either be like Pan Gu, directly break through the Tao by force, break everything, and rebuild the order. Or they could have a Taoist heart that was eternally stable, unmoved by external things. Regardless of the wind and rain, they would still be lonely and empty with an eternal Taoist heart. The empty and lonely space created by the Blood-Sea Matrix was naturally not comparable to the chaos that was endless and oppressive even for Pan Gu. Although Mosquito Taorin relied on the accumulation of resources, it was not that he did not cultivate the Tao. His Taoist heart was to use everything in the world to support himself. Whether it was space-time, karma, fate, or nothingness, even lust, loneliness, and greed, he could devour them all. Therefore, this matrix could not do anything to him at all. It was just a little troublesome to break it. What about Fang Qingshan? Although his cultivation was not high, his Taoist heart was very firm. Every breakthrough he made was to reach the limit. He walked the path of accumulating the foundation of 10,000 generations, soaring into the sky, and crushing all enemies with the power of the heavens. Although the changes of this matrix were powerful, it could not do anything to him. It was just that, like Mosquito Dowrin, if he relied on himself to break the matrix, it would take too much time. Even though Mingi was only at the early stage of the grand heavenly realm, and he had not refined 10% of the Blood Sea's origin, it was still the Blood Sea Protection Matrix. However, it was still the Blood Sea Protection Formation, which was second only to the 3 ultimate formations of the Untainted Land. In order to avoid trouble, Fang Qingshan decided to use the Timeless Arc to cut through the Gordian Knot. Otherwise, if it took too long and alerted the 3 races, or even Hung Jun and Ro, it would not be good. Even if he was not afraid of them, it would not be good to expose himself. After all, Fang Qingshan still wanted to fish in troubled waters. In the past, he would be lucky if he got it, but now he had to ensure success. Who asked Mosquito Dowrin to ask for so many resources? Fortunately, although he used the Timeless Arc, he did not need to expose too many trump cards. He did not need to use the Thunderclap Flag, the Zodion Star Matrix, or even the Horn of Chaos. He only needed to use the Death Scythe to directly defeat everything. Rumble. In the void, there was a sudden distortion, and a huge Timeless Arc suddenly broke through the void and appeared. The Timeless Arc was vast and boundless, covering the sun and the sky as if it could fill the entire void. Around it, one could vaguely hear the pious prayers of billions of creatures. The power of faith was integrated into the Timeless Arc, subtly enhancing the power of the Timeless Arkansas. It was golden and majestic. It was natural, without the slightest trace of an axe. Colorful light surrounded the Timeless Arc, changing constantly. It seemed as if it could transmit a mysterious sound at any time. What treasure is this? Seeing the Timeless Arc suddenly appear, Mingi was dumbfounded. Unfortunately, what answered him was the Death Scythe. Chapter 881. Clang. The void, which had fallen into darkness, suddenly changed. It was as if Pangu had opened the sky and the first ray of light cut through the chaos. Holy light illuminated the sky. Even the light of the sun seemed a little dim under this holy light. However, compared to the light of the sun, this blade light was less solemn and more vicious. The blade light was like snow, cutting through the layers of the void. Before Mingi could react, it slashed directly on the formation. Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed over the entire Blood Sea. It was like a bell being rung by a top spiritual treasure. Crack, crack! There was a slight crisp sound, like the flapping of a mosquito's wings. But it was like thunder in Mingi's ears. Then he saw cracks spread like ripples on water. They increased in number and became bigger and bigger. Mingi hurriedly made hand signs to activate the formation. A blood-colored flag appeared in the void, fluttering in the wind. It constantly absorbed the power of the Blood Sea, and through its own transformation, it constantly shook out streams of blood-colored power and integrated them into the formation, trying to repair the cracks. At the same time, Yuan-Tu Zavici also appeared, sending out streams of sword chi to wear down the blade light. Unfortunately, it was like drinking poison to quench thirst. Not good. Mingi did not expect the Timeless Arc to be so powerful that it could break the Blood Sea formation with one strike. Without thinking, he raised his hand and pointed, and the 12th grade red lotus of hellfire flew out from under his feet. The formation, which was on the verge of collapse, suddenly seemed to have a backbone. With the red lotus of hellfire as the center, numerous fiery red lotus flowers that resembled mandalas spread out in all directions, silently merging into the great Blood Sea formation. With the help of this primordial treasure, the top defensive spiritual treasure, the formation was strengthened. With the help of the blood-colored Shura flag and Yuan-Tu Zavici sword, The cracks on the Blood Sea formation were repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye. The entire formation was instantly impregnable. Not only was its defensive power enhanced, but the formation was also strengthened in almost all aspects. Because of the Hellfire, unless one had the body of Glaze, the golden body of Saint, or Zhu Wu's physique that did not focus on Hellfire, the Hellfire was like maggots in the bones. While weakening one's physical strength, it strengthened one's attack, making it impossible to defend against it. In particular, the red Hellfire Lotus was originally a supreme treasure used to suppress the Blood Sea. It complemented the Blood Sea array and complemented each other perfectly, like adding wings to a tiger. I refuse to believe that you're truly that powerful. In the Blood Sea, there hasn't been anyone who could force the old ancestor to this extent. Mingi heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the integration of the red Hellfire Lotus and the formation finally stabilized. However, he knew that he had to use his trump card to deal with Mosquito Dauren. Previously, he only thought that Mosquito Dauren and Yi Zichen's cultivation was high, but he didn't expect that their numinous treasures were so powerful as well. In the face of the Timeless Ark, Mingi felt as if he was facing a primordial treasure, or even more so. That was because the Death Scythe was even more powerful than the Yuan-Tu's Avicii sword, not to mention the Timeless Ark itself. Moreover, it was not just one sword, but two swords that worked together. However, if I can suppress the two of them, the old ancestor's great Tao will be in sight. Looking at Mosquito Dauren and the Timeless Ark, Mingi's eyes flashed with greed. Go! Mingi clenched his teeth. His body was like a sieve, and blood was spurting out like a fountain. As soon as the blood landed on the ground, it turned into copies of Mingi, who was weakened. Blood God. It was the same as Mosquito Dauren's clone technique. Go! Mingi's heart moved, and the Blood God's clones were connected. Like the Red Lotus of Hellfire, they integrated into the Blood Sea formation and arranged themselves according to the formation, nodes, and rules surrounding Mosquito Dauren, Fang Qingshan, and the Timeless Arkansas. Then, the Blood God's clones continued to chant abstruse, ancient, and mysterious incantations, and hit the heaven and earth with Dharma power. Suddenly, the wind and clouds surged. The red sky turned purple and black. Blood rain poured down from the sky. Even the hull of the Timeless Ark, which was made of faith and will, seemed to be corroded little by little. There was a sizzling sound. This was not the end. Mingi opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of Origin Blood essence. His hands formed thousands of incantations, and an aura that Fang Qingshan was familiar with, even a little frightening, burst out. All of a sudden, an extreme power came from the depths of the Blood Sea. However, one after another, incomplete undead sprang up like bamboo shoots after the rain. Some of them were beheaded, some had broken limbs, some only had their heads left, and some only had half of their bodies left. Chaos Demon God. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dauren exclaimed at the same time. The Thunderclap flag was a supreme treasure formed by the combination of the Chaos spiritual treasure, the Thunderclap spear, and a piece of skin from the chest of the Chaos Demon God Thunder Emperor with Dutian Thunder. In the past, Fang Qingshan had obtained a complete body of the Chaos Demon God. He had even used the Horn of Chaos to transform it into the bow of the Timeless Arkansas. Its single target attack was second only to the Thunderclap flag. The other pieces of flesh were directly integrated into the body of the Timeless Arkansas. Therefore, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dauren were very familiar with the aura of the Chaos Demon God. Although these dead souls were only the remnant souls and blood of the Chaos Demon God, they still displayed the supreme might of the Chaos Demon God. Even with a single glance, one could feel an extremely terrifying pressure that came crashing down like a tidal wave. Every single one of them was as terrifying as the duo Bao and Kong Xian that Fang Qingshan had seen before. As for Laozi, Primordial Lord, and the others, it was difficult to compare them. Fang Qingshan had never seen them fight. However, in terms of aura, at least they were not at a disadvantage. The powerful pressure spread wildly in all directions. If it were not for the Blood Sea formation, the entire desolation would have been alarmed at this moment. The primal chaos demon god was truly a primal chaos demon god. Even though he was dead, just a bit of his aura was enough to make one feel as if there was a Mount Bujo pressing down on them. In fact, even the eternal heavenly vessel seemed to have sunk down a little. How is this possible? Fong Qin Shan and Mosquito Dowrin looked at everything in front of them in disbelief. It was as if they had arrived at the ancient chaos where the demon gods ran amok. Although they knew that the Blood Sea was the result of the desolation of Pangu's tainted blood, it was still a result of the negative factors. Fong Qin Shan thought that other than Pangu's tainted blood, there might also be the blood of the demon gods in the Blood Sea. However, he did not expect that the demon god's remnant soul was suppressed under the Blood Sea. One had to know that when Pangu split open the sky, the 3,000 demon gods survived, except for Yang Mei, who was lucky enough to escape. The other demon gods were either completely annihilated or directly evolved into desolation creatures. For example, the ferocious beast before the dragon and phoenix, and even the ancestral dragon, Sky Phoenix, 5 Elements Patriarch, Yin Yang Patriarch, and Ro were all transformed from demon gods. Even the future Fuxi, Niuhua, Jin, and Zhuanti might be the same. Chapter 882. Fuxi and Niuhua seem to be related to the Yin Yang demonic god, the 8 trigrams, and the creation demonic god. Jie-in and Zhuanti were related to the karma demonic god. However, it was unclear whether they were the reincarnations of the demonic gods or had inherited the demonic gods. But in any case, these should be the minority. Unexpectedly, there were so many remnant souls of the demonic gods of chaos suppressed under the Blood Sea. At a glance, there were nearly 100 of them, which was incredible. Fong Qin Shan and Mosquito Dowrin were not the only ones who could not believe it. The moment the demonic gods of chaos appeared, Yang Mei and the other 2 were alarmed despite the Blood Sea formation. The aura of the demonic gods. Are there other Taoist survivors? In the East Sea, Yang Mei, who had been calm, could not help but feel surprised. No, why are there so many? Then he frowned slightly, shook his head, and guessed. Could the remnant souls of the demonic gods of chaos be suppressed somewhere? Forget it. No matter what is going on, let's go and find out. Yang Mei murmured for a while. With a thought, the hollow willow, which was comparable to Mount Bujo, shook its body and transformed into an old Taoist. With a step, it disappeared instantly. On Mount Meru, Ro, who was refining the immortal slaying sword formation, was suddenly shocked. The demonic gods of chaos? How could it be? Damn it. Why did they appear at this time? Do they also want to take advantage of the cultivation tribulation to seize the karmic rank of heaven and earth? Luo Fiend judged others by himself and secretly guessed. He was the reincarnation of the destruction demonic god of chaos. The battle with Hongjun was for the rightful position of the heaven and earth. Whoever won would become the son of luck, break through the shackles, and rule the desolation world. Now that so many competitors had suddenly appeared, how could Ro not be alarmed? Hee, I don't blame you for who you are. If you want to ruin the ancestors' plan, let's see if you are tough enough. Luo Ho cackled strangely. It just so happens that Patriarch's immortal slaying formation is still a little lacking. With that, Ro waved his hand, wrapping up the celestial eradication sword formation, and rushed in the direction of the Fiend Celestial's aura. At the same time, Hongjun also walked down from Yujing Mountain, rushing towards the Blood Sea with a heavy heart. Troublesome times, troublesome times. First, it was an anomaly, and now a demon god has appeared. Sigh. Hongjun heaved a long sigh. The great Tao is difficult. However, no matter who it is, if they want to destroy my great Tao, they must first ask the Pangu banner. Stroking the chaotic flag in his hand, Hongjun's eyes flashed with a hint of sharpness. It wasn't just Yang Mei's group of 3. Ancestral Dragon, Sky Phoenix, 5 Elements Patriarch, Yin Yang, and the others had also sensed it to a certain extent. However, it was too obscure. Coupled with the fact that they were busy they didn't pay too much attention to it. Putting aside the fact that the Chaos Fiend Celestial had alarmed everyone, it wasn't hard to understand that there was a Fiend Celestial's remnant soul suppressed under the Blood Sea. Pangu's Daoization and Desolation living beings could basically be considered Pangu's descendants. There were 12 Zhu Wus and Sanqings in the Orthodox lineage. Although the cultivation of the 3,000 Fiend Celestials was not as high as Pangu's, they should still have some tricks up their sleeves. There shouldn't be any accidents leaving behind some remnant souls. Unfortunately, apart from abandoning the Fiend Celestial's body and completely integrating with Desolation, there was no other way to make a comeback. They were all destroyed by Pangu and Hongjun Tiandao. For example, the Fiend Celestial's remnant souls under the Blood Sea. If the Timeless Ark had not shocked the Nether River too much today, he wouldn't have dared to risk universal condemnation by releasing the Chaos Fiend Celestial's remnant souls to strengthen the Blood Sea formation. As long as they didn't break the seal of the Blood Sea, these Fiend Celestial's remnant souls will be slowly eroded by the Blood Sea and turned into the Blood Sea's origin. The reason why Nether River took the risk was not only because of the pressure from the Timeless Ark, but also because he wanted to take a shortcut. On one hand, he used the Chaos Fiend Celestial to deal with Feng Qingshan and the Timeless Ark, and on the other hand, he used the Timeless Ark to deal with the Chaos Fiend Celestial's remnant souls. He would let both sides suffer and reap the benefits. Not only could he devour the complete origin of Mosquito Dowrin, but he could also obtain the treasure, the Timeless Arkansas. He could also destroy the Chaos Fiend Celestial's remnant souls in advance, remove the Blood Sea's threat, and strengthen the origin, killing two birds with one stone. Unfortunately, it had to be said that wishful thinking was good, but plans could never keep up with changes. Seeing that the Blood Sea formation had taken shape, the Chaos Fiend Celestial and the Blood Sea formation merged into one, and the formation's power was finally fully released. Nether River could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. As the master of the Blood Sea, he naturally knew how powerful the Blood Sea formation was when it was fully unleashed. Without using the formation of the Chaos Fiend Celestial, even if the ancestral dragon and the others were trapped in it, they would be like a dragon swimming in shallow water or a tiger out of the plain. After using it, Nether River felt that he could even suppress the Timeless Arkansas. Seeing that nearly 100 strands of the 3,000 demon gods' remnant wills were driven by Nether River and merged into one with the formation, for a moment, hundreds of ancient demon gods slowly opened their eyes and looked down on all living beings. Seeing this, Feng Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin felt their scalps go numb, and a thin layer of cold sweat appeared on their backs. After all, it was a demon god. Even though it was dead, its ferocious might was still there. They did not expect Nether River to have such a trick up his sleeve. Moreover, he dared to risk universal condemnation by releasing the demon god from the suppression of the Blood Sea. One had to know that if the demon god's remnant soul escaped, the karma would not be a joke. However, Nether River obviously did not think of this. Even if he knew, he would not care. The most important thing now was to get through the current crisis. With the support of the demon god, the power of the entire Blood Sea formation could be said to be completely restored. It gave Mosquito Dowrin the feeling that it was no less powerful than when Nether River completely refined the Blood Sea and his cultivation reached the peak of Sage to Be. The power of this formation could almost be said to be the best in the world before the three ultimate formations of Desolation appeared. It was even more powerful than the Dragon, Phoenix, and Chelan clans guarding formation. With the Blood Sea as the foundation, the Blood God's offspring to suppress the nodes, the UN2 Sword of Avicii to strengthen the attack, the Blood Azura flag to strengthen the defense, and the 12th Grade Red Lotus of Fire to suppress the formation. Then, there were nearly 100 chaotic demon gods' remnant souls to strengthen the formation and Nether River to control the formation. Feng Qingshan felt that this was no less powerful than the counterfeit version of the immortal slaying sword formation used by many treasures in the journey to the West World and the Chaos, and Kong Xian's fake 5 elements Khanate formation. Nether River, the master of the Blood Sea, you really live up to your reputation. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan could not help but sigh with emotion. If it were the clan leaders of the Dragon and Phoenix clans who came alone, they would probably also be defeated on the spot, unless they brought their subordinates and set up the guarding formation. Even so, as long as Nether River hid in the Blood Sea, no one could do anything to him. Even if Demon Lord Ro and Daozu Hongjun came, they would probably end up in the same situation. Because although their current cultivation was almost at the top of desolation, they were still not invincible in the world. They could not break the Blood Sea formation and could not do anything to Nether River. Breaking the Blood Sea formation, injuring the origin of the Blood Sea, and releasing the chaotic demon god's remnant souls, Nether River's karma was monstrous. Chapter 883. In the desolation, the Wu people were probably the only ones who didn't care about the karmic force of karma. This group of people didn't respect heaven and earth, nor did they worship Daozu. They only respected Pangu. If it weren't for the fact that their fists weren't strong enough to defeat Hongjun Tiandao, the sky would have been turned upside down. Moreover, they didn't have primordial spirits, so they naturally didn't care about the karmic force of karma. Apart from them, even the lawless Ro probably couldn't afford to release the remnant soul of the chaos demon to break the karmic force of the origin of the Blood Sea. Daozu would avoid it like a snake or a scorpion. Unfortunately, he met Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Daoran. With the timeless arc, the two's cultivation wasn't any weaker than that of Hongjun and Ro. Now in the desolation, only Yang Mei from East Sea could beat them. The most important thing was that Mosquito Daoran was also a creature of the Blood Sea, so he knew the Blood Sea formation very well. Although the sticks had been strengthened by the remnant soul of the Chaos Demon and changed the formation, the original principle was still the same. To break the Blood Sea formation, Fang Qingshan could directly use the chaotic demonic horn. As long as he went back and forth dozens of times, he would definitely be able to break the formation. However, it would take too much time. Once the Chaos Demon came out, although the formation was concealing it, other people would be fine. However, Hongjun, Ro, and Yang Mei would definitely be able to sense it. Therefore, he couldn't delay it, lest something unexpected happened. Without the chaotic demonic horn, Fang Qingshan could still use the Zhodian star map to break the formation with the formation. However, now that he was in the desolation, the starry sky had no owner. Once the Zhodian star map was activated, it would immediately attract the ancient starry sky. By then, it wouldn't just be Ro, Hongjun, and Yang Mei. The entire desolation would be alarmed. Therefore, the simplest and quickest way was to take out the thunderclap flag. Under a bolt of Dutian thunder, whatever formation, whatever demon god, they would all vanish into thin air. Didn't you see that during the first great war between the shamans and demons, Wu people used the 12 divine beings killing formation, and Pangu's true body shot out a bolt of divine lightning, and even the Zhodian star formation was broken? Furthermore, the Dutian thunder could restrain the chaos demon god, so Mingi might have miscalculated. One had to know that Fang Qingshan's timeless arc had only fused with the Chaos Lord's body and horn, and it had almost been heavily damaged, not to mention the Chaos Lord's soul, even if it was broken. After breaking the formation, I'll clean up the mess as soon as possible and conceal the secrets of heaven. As long as I'm fast enough, there shouldn't be any problems. Thunderclap flag out, Fang Qingshan shouted, and a large flag flew out of the thunder pool of the timeless Arkansas. Yes, the thunderclap flag wasn't in the eternal thunder, but hidden in the thunder pool of the eternal thunder. Using the thunder pool to nurture the thunder flag could speed up the transformation of the thunderclap flag. Using the thunder flag to nourish the thunder pool could further improve the thunderclap flag, making it more solid and able to store more and purer thunder. They complemented each other and worked together for a win-win situation. The flag unfolded, and there were all kinds of ancient, mysterious, and abstruse thunder patterns on it, evolving into various images. The most common was naturally the thunder itself. Some evolved into thunder weapons such as sabers, spears, swords, halberds, axes, hooks, and tridents. Some evolved into creatures such as soldiers, generals, marquises, kings, and emperors. Some evolved into divine beasts such as dragons, phoenixes, rocks, and golden crows. There were so many of them, and all of them were earth-shattering and contained endless evil chi. Tut! As soon as Fang Qingshan thought of this, the thousands of thunder patterns on the thunderclap flag seemed to come to life. They intertwined with each other and combined into a gray, misty thunder light. Even the evil chi disappeared, and it looked like a harmless thunder light. Returned to the original nature, divine objects conceal themselves. Duqian Thunder. Mingi hadn't recognized it yet, but the remnant soul of the demon god of chaos, who had lost its intelligence and acted only by instinct, seemed to have come back to life at this moment. It looked at the sacred thunder in front of it in horror and wanted to escape subconsciously. Very well, their actions had instantly caused trouble for Mingi. The originally impregnable formation became chaotic before the enemy attacked. It was as if two armies were fighting against each other, and the losing side directly attacked their own camp. The power of the formation was greatly reduced, and there were troubles from both outside and inside. The demon god of chaos was trapped in the formation, so it was wishful thinking to escape, harming others and oneself. From this, it could be seen what kind of memories Pangu and the Dutian Thunder had left in the mind of the demon god of chaos. Even in death, the demon god of chaos obsession could still be stimulated. Rumble. As soon as the sacred thunder appeared, the whole blood sea began to shake before it even fell. Boundless dark clouds swept up. In an instant, thunder clouds appeared. The great path of thunder was faintly discernible, and the patterns of the great path intertwined. The dead souls in the blood sea didn't even have time to scream before they vanished in a thin air. Crack! Crack! The blood sea formation couldn't bear the heavy load and cracked. The clones of the blood god who were suppressed by Mingi exploded one by one, like dazzling red fireworks. The thunder fell, and the shining thunder light illuminated the whole blood sea. The blood sea formation collapsed without any resistance. As for the remnant souls of the chaos fiend celestial that were fleeing in all directions, it was as if they had been fitted with a GPS device. The divine thunder accurately located them, struck them, and obliterated them. Almost all the undead souls in the entire blood sea disappeared, and the entire blood sea even sank by one level. Damn it! The blood sea formation was broken, and Mingi suffered a backlash. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood, and his whole body withered. He looked prematurely old. Even his cultivation fell from the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal to the Primordial Unity Golden Immortal. It was as if he had been hit by the Primordial Dipper, and his cultivation had dropped by a whole realm. I'll be back. Mingi couldn't care less. After saying that, he exploded with a loud bang, as if he had been installed with a time bomb. Boundless blood-colored light scattered in all directions. The blood escape technique. Back in the journey to the west, Fang Qingshan had seen Red Boy perform it. It was not only a flying technique, but also a life-saving technique. They caught him off guard and were as fast as a startled swan. There were also countless of them. It was a top-notch life-saving technique. Millions, or even tens of millions of bloodlight, and each of them was a clone of the blood god. As long as he could escape, Mingi could make a comeback. What a pity. Freeze! There was no need for Fang Qingshan to say anything. The Thunder Emperor made the first move. A dazzling divine light stretched and shrank across the whole blood sea. The transcendence, true meaning filled the air, and the nirvana profound meaning rotated, turning into a stone bridge that froze the whole space of the blood sea. A bright lamp rose slowly, and the light was dense like water. It splashed out like ripples, slowly but rapidly, and shrouded the whole blood sea like moonlight. Space was still, and time was frozen. Although the blood escape technique was fast, it was impossible for him to escape, and he was frozen in the air. Go! Almost at the same time, Mosquito Dowrin also made a move. A monstrous blood cloud rose from his body, and the sound was like thunder. His doppelgangers, which were much more than Mingy's, scattered in all directions. While Mingy was frozen by the Nirvana bridge and the passing water lamp, they pounced on a clones of the blood god in groups of 3 to 5. They stretched out their mouth parts, and in an instant they were all swallowed. Chapter 884. Patriarch Nether River's son of the blood god could also devour flesh and blood, which made people tremble in fear. Deng of Mount Shu relied on this to dominate the world, but it was nothing compared to Mosquito Dorn's mouthpiece. There was nothing it couldn't break and nothing it couldn't swallow. This was no joke. Even the 12th grade Golden Lotus, a top primordial spiritual treasure, second only to primordial cardinal treasures, could not withstand the stab of Mosquito Dorn's mouthpiece. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the mouthpiece was. Especially at that time, Mosquito Doran had just been born. His cultivation was not high, and he had not been polished. But now, not only had his cultivation reached the sage-to-be, but he had also been cleansed. Even primordial cardinal treasures and the golden body of a sage could not withstand his sharpness. When a mouthpiece pierced, it was like an ordinary Jianghu person meeting the northern underworld magic skill. Moreover, it was different from the spiritual roots and heavenly minerals that Mosquito Doran devoured. Mingy and he came from the same source. After devouring, he could use it for his own use. He had not need to digest it at all. The speed of assimilation was astonishing. Alas, what a pity! Mosquito Doran sighed while devouring Mingy. Life was not as smooth as it could be. Mingy had just transformed and had not grown up. His cultivation was only at the early stage of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. He had not even refined 1/10 of the origin of the Blood Sea. Devouring Mingy could make up for the origin. For Mosquito Doran, who had the cultivation of a sage-to-be, it was like eating a flat peach or a ginseng fruit. If Mingy were to be devoured at his peak, his cultivation would at least advance by a small level. Furthermore, not only cultivation, but also Netherworld River's understanding of blood, slaughter, and various great paths could also be stolen by Taoist one. However, if that was the case, it would not be so easy to kill Mingy. After all, as long as the Blood Sea did not dry up, Mingy would not die. Moreover, at that time, Mingy would already be the master of the Blood Sea, the master of the 6 paths of reincarnation, the ancestor of the Azura tribe, and the leader of the Azura sect. Gain and loss, there were gains and losses. No, along with Mosquito Doran's regret, and longing for more was the Styx's unwillingness, hatred, and despair. The Lord of the Blood Sea, the big boss of the heavens, and the Nether River, who was supposed to be the master of the Blood Sea, had already become history before he was even born. How sad and lamentable. This was fate. Kill. After destroying the Styx, Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Doran did not stop. His hands moved even faster than before. Fong Qingshan got the Thunder Emperor to take out the Death Scythe and slashed at the void. It wasn't because he was venting or that there was something wrong with his nerves, nor was it because he had discovered that there was someone hiding there. Instead, he slashed at the river of fate and threw the mysteries of heaven into chaos. After all, both the Chaos Demon God and the Duqian Thunder were too eye-catching. Fong Qingshan did not want to expose himself so soon. At least, before Mosquito Doran stabilized his position as the master of the Blood Sea, and he properly dealt with his identity so that he would not be targeted by Hongjun Tiandao and then successfully fish in troubled waters, he did not want others to discover them. Then, Mosquito Doran cleaned up the old mountains and rivers at lightning speed and rebuilt the broken Blood Sea formation. Formation rise. Then Mosquito Doran shouted softly. After devouring the Styx, he did not withdraw his doppelgangers. Instead, like the Styx had set up the formation earlier, he spread them out and occupied the nodes. He cooperated with his main body and performed thousands of hand seals to reactivate the formation. Buzz. The Blood Sea trembled, and a blood mist rose again, enveloping the entire Blood Sea. Suppress. Fong Qingshan controlled the timeless arc to suppress the formation eye. If the sticks had not fallen and its origin had not been damaged, the blood sea would not have changed at all. However, Fong Qingshan was not affected much. Although the origin of the blood sea had been damaged, the sticks had not been completely refined. Moreover, he had dealt with the remnant soul of the chaos demon god. Not only was he meritorious, but he had also resolved the hidden danger of the blood sea. The merits and demerits offset each other, and there would be no reward or punishment. Hi! When Taoist made a gesture, and the entire space of the blood sea fluctuated. Like a dreamy bubble, it vanished into thin air. When Taoist disappeared completely. Duqian thunder? How is that possible? Halfway to the blood sea, Yang Mei, Hongjun, and Ro, who were rushing toward it, almost jumped up in shock the moment the Duqian thunder appeared. Even his eyebrows were no longer as calm and steady as Mount Tai. After all, he was a person who had survived the Duqian thunder and the heaven-splitting divine axe. No one knew the power of the Duqian thunder better than him. Even Ro, who was also a chaos demon god, had already reincarnated. As for Yang Mei, he had the chaos spiritual root, Hollow Willow, and there were traces of the Duqian thunder on his body. First it was the anomaly, then the chaos demon god, and now even the Duqian thunder has appeared. What is going on? The three of them stopped at the same time, frowned, and calculated with their fingers. Then, an unexpected yet reasonable expression appeared on their faces. The direction where the chaos demon god appeared. Without much time to think, the three of them rushed toward the direction they had deduced earlier. If there was a change in the heavenly mystery in the birth of an anomaly, it was just a small inconvenience that they could ignore. If a chaos demon god were to reappear in the martial world, it would be a huge problem. If they were not careful, the inherent balance might be broken and their respective plans would be ruined. They would fall short of success at the last moment. As for the Pangu's Duqian thunder, it was completely beyond their expectations. After Pangu, they thought that there would be no more Duqian thunder. Little did they know that they were overthinking. Could it be that this is Pangu's backup plan? The three of them could not help but speculate. They cannot be blamed for thinking that way. After all, the Duqian thunder appeared as soon as the Chaos Demon God's aura leaked out. Thinking about the irreconcilable relationship between Pangu and the Chaos Demon God, it was reasonable for the three of them to think that way. Just as Yang Mei and the other two were rushing toward the source of the aura with their hearts in their throats, they did not expect that the aura would disappear halfway. Their deductions of the heavenly mystery were all hazy, and they could not divine anything at all. Damn it, what is going on? The three of them were on the verge of cursing. It was fine if they could not divine what was going on, but now even the source had disappeared, as if it had never appeared in the first place. Those who did not know better would think that they were being fooled. So forget it. Who cares if it's the Chaos Demon God or Pangu's Heavenly Thunder? What does it have to do with me? I'd better heal my injuries first. Whether it's Pangu or the Chaos Demon God, they are both dead. Even if they have some tricks up their sleeves, so what? Let's go. Yang Mei, who was the first to come back to his senses, shook his head. He moved his feet and disappeared in an instant. His speed was far faster than Dijiang's 280,000 miles with a flap of its wings. Moreover, there was no smoke or fire, just like an antelope hanging its horns. Chapter 885. After Yang Mei left, Ro and Hongjun were frustrated for a while. They paced back and forth in the same place for a while, but they did not give up. For the two of them, such an uncontrollable thing happening at the critical moment of the Dragon Phoenix tribulation was not good for either of them. After all, it was the Chaos Demon God and the Duqian Thunder. If they did not find out the truth, they would feel uneasy. Now that it was about the two of them proving their Tao, there was no room for carelessness. Therefore, Hongjun and Ro gritted their teeth, and each took out a treasure, wanting to break through the river of fate and the fog of heavenly secrets. Luo Ho took out a long spear, and an unparalleled killing power soared into the sky, stabbing towards the void. In an instant, the black clouds that were condensed by the surging, killing aura seemed to have been pierced through, and the world became clear. Although the killing aura was very short and quickly gathered back together, it was still extremely terrifying. Whoosh! The infinite chi pressure made the great path of heaven wail, and the people in the entire desolation lost their minds for a moment. That moment seemed to turn into an eternity. The Godslayer was the top primordial spiritual treasure in the desolation, and its attack power was close to that of the Pangu's banner. Its killing power was unparalleled. The Uintu sword of Avicii, the immortal slaying sword, and the death scythe were all inferior in terms of killing power. According to Fang Qingshan's observation, it was probably the top primordial spiritual treasure, except for the Thunderclap banner, which had not been upgraded yet. Coincidentally, Hong Jun had also taken out a flag at this moment. For a time, a myriad of rays of light pierced through the sky, and a myriad of auspicious colors covered the 9 heavens. It emitted a domineering aura of supremacy and revealed an insufferably arrogant dignity. On the body of the banner, the evil chi of the capital god burst out. It was as if it wanted to destroy the chaos and reopen the world. The banner showed the supreme scene of the great god Pangu holding the heaven-splitting divine axe and splitting the world apart. There were mysterious prophecies surrounding the banner, and the heaven-splitting talisman was faintly visible inside the banner. The primordial spiritual treasure, the Pangu's banner. Hong Jun shook lightly and instantly shattered the space-time of the heavens and tore apart the primordial chaos. It was even more terrifying than Ro's Godslayer. If the Godslayer walked the Tao of killing, the Tao of tyranny, and the Tao of invincibility, then the Pangu banner walked the Tao of kings, the Tao of emperors, and the Tao of emperors. Ro, Hong Jun. The moment the 2 treasures appeared, the 2 from Ro noticed the other party. At the same time, they realized that the other party had the same objective as them. Although the 2 of them were sworn enemies, just like Pangu, the demon god, and the witch and demon races, this wasn't the time to fight. Furthermore, the 2 of them had a common goal at this moment. Ro's eyes flashed fiercely, while Hong Jun's eyes dimmed. Both of them joined forces and attacked simultaneously. The Godslayer and the Pangu banner worked together to attack the place where the heavenly secrets were hidden. It was a pity that the 2 of them had yet to become sages. Even though they had supreme treasures in their hands and their cultivation bases were not low, they were still in the midst of a great tribulation. The Blood Sea formation, the eternal heavenly vessel, and the primordial violet chi were not things that they could break through right now. However, regardless of whether it was the Godslayer's light or the mixed origin sword chi of the Pangu banner, when they fell into the river of destiny, although they stirred up wind and rain and stirred up waves, the heavenly secrets were still shrouded in mist, unable to reveal the true nature of the mountain. Damn it! Damn it! Ro and Hong Jun did not expect that even with their treasures and the enemy's help, they still wouldn't be able to divine anything. In the end, they gave up. Fortunately, one thing was confirmed. This matter had nothing to do with the other party. With that, they were slightly relieved. Forget it. I'll go back and refine the celestial slaying sword formation. As long as I succeed, it doesn't matter if it's Hong Jun or any other monsters. I'll just kill them all. A cold light flashed in Ro's eyes, and he turned to leave. Sigh, trouble times. It seems like I'll have to ask a few friends for help. A fence needs 3 stakes. A good man needs 3 helpers. Hong Jun did not return to the Purple Cloud Palace directly. Instead, he headed for the 5 elements, yin-yang, reversal, and heaven and earth patriarchs. He was going to look for help. Phew! Just as Ro and Hong Jun gave up on getting to the bottom of the matter, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin, who were in the Blood Sea, could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Good fellas, Daozu and the demon ancestor are indeed impressive. Although Hong Jun and Mosquito Dowrin did not break the secrets of heaven, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin broke out in a cold sweat. In the River of Destiny, Fang Qingshan had indirectly fought with the 2 of them once. He felt that even if he had the timeless arc, the shocking thunder flag, and the gate of eternal life, he still felt that he would lose if he were to fight with the two of them. The celestial slaying sword formation in Ro's hands was not something that could be compared to many treasures. Even sect leader Tong could not compare to it. That was because it was his accompanying spiritual treasure, the natal spiritual treasure of the demon god of destruction. The primordial chaos sword had been split into 4 after the great tribulation of creation. There was also the Godslayer, a top-notch spiritual treasure that was not weaker than a Khanate cardinal treasure. Hongjuan's means were not inferior to Ro's. Not only did he have the Pangu banner, but he also had the Creation Jade Plate and the Purple Cloud Palace, which was also a cardinal treasure. Most importantly, he was the candidate for the path fusing of Hongjun Tiandao in the Desolation. He was the real protagonist of the cultivation tribulation. Heaven and earth were on his side. Otherwise, why would the ancestral dragon, the heavenly phoenix, the 5 elements, yin and yang, and even Ro all die in the end? He was the only one who lived well and was not even seriously injured. After the Great Tribulation, he was blessed with luck and became the number 1 person in the Desolation. If Ro had not schemed against him at the end, he would not have been able to survive. Not only did he blow up the Western ancestral vein, but he also established the demon path. With the Dao gone and the demon path growing, Hongjuan's achievements would have been even greater, and his progress would have been even faster. Then, Fang Qingshan thought of Yang Mei, who did not make a move from the beginning to the end. As the Chaos Fiend Celestial who survived from Pangu's hands, and the only person who defeated Daozu, how heaven-defying was he? Fortunately, Yang Mei did not care about it, and did not care about it. Otherwise, if he joined forces with Hongjun and Ro, the heavenly secrets that Fang Qingshan was hiding might be torn apart. As expected, none of these people who left their names in history are simple. Putting aside Yang Mei, Hongjun, and Ro, even the Styx River had the chaotic remnant soul suppressed under the Blood Sea as a trump card. In the end, even though he had failed, Fang Qingshan had nearly been consigned to eternal damnation. Not only did he hurt the Blood Sea's origin, if he let the Chaos Fiend Celestial go, Fang Qingshan would not be able to bear the karma. Typically, after I die, I don't care what happens. However, I'm fine now. I just need to get through this period of time. Fang Qingshan heaved a sigh of relief and said, "You can refine the origin in the Blood Sea and devour spiritual treasures to reach your limit as soon as possible. It's time for me to find a new identity." A new identity? What are you planning? Mosquito Dowrin raised his bloody eyebrows and asked. Far away, Fang Qingshan pointed into the distance. Chapter 886. Tianbian, the Zhodian Star? Mosquito Dowrin reacted quickly and immediately understood what Fang Qingshan meant. He nodded instinctively. Fang Qingshan had the map of the Zhodian Star, so he had a high chance of success in plotting against the primordial starry sky. However, Mosquito Dowrin shook his head and said with a frown, Di Jun and Tai are different. Emperor Jun is different from Tai and Mingi. Mingi will be the protagonist of the next cultivation tribulation, and you are not me. I was originally a creature of the Blood Sea, so I could easily replace you. But you're not the creature of the sun, so how can the Zhodian Star only have the moon and the sun? Fang Qingshan smiled faintly and interrupted Mosquito Dowrin. Ziwei? Mosquito Dowrin suddenly understood, but then shook his head. You may have the map of the Zhodian Star, but the Ziwei Star might not be any easier to deal with than the sun. So what if you occupy the Ziwei Star? You'll still have to face Di, Jun, and Tai. Most importantly, you can't kill them. During the First Great War between the Wu people and the demons, the Wu people were completely superior to the demons. The Great Divine Fiend formation could have destroyed the demons, but Hongjun intervened in the end, and all their efforts were in vain. If you want to deal with them, I'm afraid Hongjun won't just sit back and do nothing. You can't get rid of them. Plus, the Zhodian Star is the key to dealing with the Wu people. Although the Zhodian Star is good, it's a place of trouble and karma. It's not suitable for cultivation. At this point, Mosquito Dowrin paused and suggested, I think you should wait. Wouldn't it be better to find an opportunity to be the Jotian star during the war between the Taoists and the demons? War between the Taoists and the demons? Fang Qingshan was stunned when he heard this. He could not react in time. Have you forgotten about the five elements patriarch? Mosquito Dowran reminded him. Patriarch, five elements? Why didn't I think of that? Fang Qingshan was also blind under the light. After hearing Mosquito Doran's reminder, his eyes instantly lit up. All right, that's good. I'll wait then. Patriarch Five Elements was either the reincarnation of the Chaos Fiend God Five Elements, or he had obtained a portion of his legacy. If Fang Qingshan could replace the Five Elements' great ancestor, not only could he steal his good fortune, but he could also inherit the Five Elements' great Tao of the Five Elements Demon God, which would be greatly beneficial to his own Five Elements' great Tao. The most important thing was that he did not need to plan too much. After all, during the immortal killing sword formation, the Five Elements' great ancestor, who had been tricked by Hong Jun, would not be able to overcome that obstacle. He only needed to capture him when he was half dead and then occupy his nest. Putting aside Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dowran, who were refining the origin energy and raising their cultivation base in the Blood Sea, quietly waiting for an opportunity, after Ro left and returned to Mount Meru, he immediately accelerated the sacrificial refining of the immortal killing sword formation. Although the four immortal killing swords were four parts of the Chaos spiritual treasure, the origin sword, which had evolved into a sword formation in the process of being reborn, it lacked the formation. However, without the formation map, it was not as sharp and convenient as the god-slaying spear. Therefore, Ro prepared to use the 12th grade World Destruction Black Lotus as the foundation, tempered with the Earth Turbid Chi and Heavenly Evil Chi of the Nine Nether Impasse. Use Godslayer as the brush, and use the Great Tao of Slaughter as the ink to draw the formation pattern. He refined a peerless formation pattern himself. For a moment, heaven and earth changed color, evil chi rolled, and turbid waves rose to the sky. The gods of desolation all felt their hearts palpitate, as if the world was about to be destroyed. They all woke up from their meditation and stretched out their fingers to calculate, but found that the heavenly secrets were in chaos, and there was no result. On the other hand, Hong Jun was wandering around the 3 mountains and 5 peaks, the north and south of the Yangtze River, meeting with the ancestors of Yin and Yang, 5 elements, reversal, heaven and earth, and others who were second only to him and Ro. He invited them to help him slay demons and earn merit points, just like during the vicious beast calamity. Regarding this, be it because of their friendship or merit points, everyone agreed without hesitation. However, what Hong Jun did not tell them was that this cultivation calamity was dangerous, and they could lose their lives if they were not careful. Ro was not that easy to deal with. The immortal killing sword formation was a formation set up by a sage, and it could only be broken by the 4 sages. Ro's formation could not be broken without at least 4 sages of similar cultivation. This was the shadow of death that even Hong Jun felt. Otherwise, he would not have shamelessly schemed and asked for help. Although Hong Jun was a little untruthful about this and felt a little guilty, he did not regret it. It was better for the Taoists to die than for me. Moreover, this was related to proving one's Tao. In order to prove one's Tao, Ro provoked the Dragon and Phoenix Wars and bathed the world in blood. Naturally, Hong Jun was not stingy with his friends. Moreover, if the 5 elements ancestor and the others did not die, how could treasures like the Tai Chi painting and the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth fall into Hong Jun's hands? Most importantly, he did not lie to them. As long as they could survive the cultivation calamity, there would naturally be many benefits. If they could not survive, then it was heaven's will. As for the Dragon and Phoenix clans, not to mention the people secretly adding fuel to the fire, they themselves had many conflicts. Today, I will kill a few of your people, tomorrow I will take a few of your treasures, and the day after that, I will take a few territories. The Dragon and Phoenix clans, which are like a bag of dynamite, finally exploded with an irreconcilable conflict. Clang, clang, clang. Following the ringing of the bell, The dragon race and the scaled race of the Four Seas were all alarmed. This was not the Eastern Emperor bell, but the Four Seas bell. It was used by the dragon clan to summon people. When the bell rang 9 times, anyone who was not in seclusion would rush over. In the journey to the West World, Ao Guang had used it once when Sun Wukong destroyed the Dragon Palace. As the Four Seas bell rang, the Phoenix clan also blew the heavenly bird horn, and the Qilin clan sounded the 10,000 beasts array-breaking drum. For a moment, birds and beasts also moved upon hearing the sound. With the Dragon and Phoenix clans as the arrows and the other clans as the wings, billions of creatures directly fought together. Woo woo woo. For a moment, heaven and earth wailed. The entire untainted land was filled with a terrifying aura. Invasion, violence, death, cruelty, despair, madness, and so on. All kinds of emotions seemed to explode in an instant, giving people a feeling of despair that had reached the freezing point. They looked up, whether it was the Four Seas, the Desolation Continent, or above the 9 heavens. There was no distinction between north, south, east, sea, land, or air, and even underground. At this moment, the entire desolation had become a huge battlefield, a meat grinder. A dark mass completely covered the entire desolation sea, land, and air like a tide. There were so many of them that it had reached an immeasurable level. If there were more than 1,000 people, it would reach the sky. If there were 10,000 people, it would be boundless. Not to mention the thousands of clans in the Desolation Continent, billions of creatures had already blocked the light of the sun, unable to shine on the Desolation Continent. Those who did not know would think that it was the alternation of day and night. It had already turned a pitch-black color. Blood chi soared into the sky, and the murderous aura condensed into clouds. The red was a devilish red, so red that it made people tremble in fear. The black was deep, so black that it made people's organs tremble. Dragon roars, phoenix cries, and beast roars. This was a great calamity, like the arrival of the end of the world. It swept across the entire Desolation Continent and all living beings. Chapter 887. Heaven Immortals were like dogs and Golden Immortals were everywhere. The war between the 3 races lasted for thousands of years. During this period, many experts died. Not to mention those below Golden Immortal level, a large number of them died. Even Golden Immortals were just slightly bigger cannon fodder. Even Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals were not safe. Even Quasi-Sage experts died in there if they were unlucky. As for the damaged numinous treasures, even top-grade Khanate numinous treasures could not escape. Such a cataclysm limited a person's power to the minimum. Unless one had the cultivation of a sage or origin immortal, one would sink deeper and deeper the more one struggled. Moreover, this was only the Dragon Phoenix cataclysm. If it was the witch and demon cataclysm, even a sage would have to retreat when facing the 2 great arrays. Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. The ancestral dragon, Sky Phoenix, and ancestral Qilin were also caught in the baleful chi. They were blinded and killed without considering the overall situation. As the war continued, the baleful chi of the cataclysm became thicker. Blood flowed like oceans and corpses piled up like mountains. Originally, the 3 races brought tens of millions of elites each. Now, there were less than 1 million left. It was extremely miserable. The 3 races fared better. The scaled armor, beasts, and birds, which were the vassal races of the dragon and phoenix races, were completely annihilated. Bewitched by the baleful chi, even if they died, they would self-destruct and drag someone down with them. Once they self-destructed, they would not be able to distinguish between friend and foe. Such a war did not only damage the Desolation Myriad races, but also the Desolation Heaven and Earth. The entire heaven and earth were originally extremely sturdy and covered by Pangu's pressure. After the cataclysm, the spatial barrier weakened and Pangu's pressure dissipated. Mountains, rivers, and lands changed. Many were turned to dust in the war between the 3 races. In the end, There were less than a tenth of the three races left. It was unknown if the cataclysm had gathered enough people or if their minds were connected, but the ancestral dragon, Sky Phoenix, and the others finally woke up. Seeing the devastation and the few clansmen left, the three of them spat out a mouthful of blood and regret. Grudges, enmity, and ambitions instantly vanished from the minds of the three of them. Sigh, I didn't expect such an ending. Ha ha ha. Ancestral Gragon wanted to cry, but had no tears. He smiled bleakly. Yes, after this battle, who knows how long it will take for him to recover. The heavenly phoenix also sighed. Forget it, forget it. This is the will of the heavens. Let's stop here. The ancestral Qilin closed its eyes in pain. The three of them reached an agreement. Without any hesitation, they each used their own methods to collect the remaining tribesmen who were still trapped in the murderous aura and unable to extricate themselves. Just as they were about to return and lick their wounds, something unexpected happened. Ha 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 ha! A wild laughter came from all directions. Fellow Taoist, why are you in such a hurry? No matter what, let me send you on your final journey. As soon as he finished speaking, for gigantic blood-colored swords with murderous aura and murderous aura descended from the sky, giving off the shadow of death. In an instant, the entire battlefield was shrouded in it. Following that, another formation covered the sun and the sky. The formation was entirely black and looked like a lotus flower with 12 petals. Within the formation, there were 8 trigrams and 9 palaces circulating. It was covered with mysterious markings and contained an extremely shocking murderous aura. In an instant, the formation was formed. Not good. Let's go. Damn it. Seeing the 4 murderous swords, Ancestral Gragon and the other 2 felt as if their hearts were being squeezed. A piercing chill spread from their toes to the top of their heads. The 3 of them almost instinctively wanted to escape. They did not want to be trapped by the formation. The phoenix spread its wings, the Qilin burrowed into the ground, and the divine dragon broke through the sky. Unfortunately, it was too late. Ro had been planning for a long time. If Ancestral Gragon and the other 2 were at their peak, there might still be some hope. But now, if they let the 3 of them escape, Ro would not need to compete with Hanjun. They could just retreat. The stars moved and the earth changed. In an instant, Ancestral Gragon and the other 2 were trapped in the center. In the blink of an eye, they had changed to the human world. The 4 swords roared and hung upside down in all directions like the gates of heaven. The murderous aura in the formation surged and shot up to the sky. A bloody storm filled the formation. Rays of sword aura crisscrossed the formation, extremely sharp. The 4 gates of the celestial, slaying evil formation were lined up. Yellow fog, wind, thunder, and fire coexisted. The sword light had the god-devouring bone, and the talisman was empty. Once the formation was formed, the endless murderous aura in the battlefield and the blood and bones of the dead soldiers of the 3 clans quickly gathered around the 4 swords and were devoured by them. Large numbers of corpses and blood disappeared into thin air. It was chilling to see. Celestial slaying sword formation. As the 4 celestial slaying swords fell, Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowran in the Blood Sea, Patriarch Yang, Mei above the EC, and Hongju near the battlefield could not help but narrow their eyes. Taoist, let's get ready. We'll act at any time. Hongjun, who was near the battlefield, felt that the time was ripe. He immediately bowed to Patriarch 5 Elements and the others. Taoist, don't worry. We're waiting for orders. Patriarch 5 Elements and the others patted their chests, indicating that there was no problem. Ro and the celestial slaying sword formation gave them a bad feeling. But it was not in their character to retreat without a fight. Moreover, there were so many of them. Could they not defeat Ro alone? Therefore, although they were worried, they did not show it on their faces. In this regard, although Hong Jun vaguely sensed it, he pretended not to know. After all, if he wanted to deal with Ro without these people, even if he could succeed, the price he had to pay would be too high. Thank you, Taoist. In the Blood Sea, after thousands of years of refinement, Mosquito Dauren had almost refined the Blood Sea's origin. Sensing the changes on the battlefield and seeing that the climax was coming, Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dauren stood up at the same time. Fong Qingshan said impatiently, "We can also move. I'll split into 3 doppelgangers. 2 of them will go with me to the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin clans to steal the treasures. The remaining doppelganger will go to the Myriad clans to take a look. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat, isn't it?" Fong Qingshan revealed the plan in his mind. "As for you, you'll drive the timeless ark to the battlefield and wait for an opportunity to snatch Patriarch 5 elements out. Then you'll be the scavenger. Don't let go of those corpses and broken artifacts." Okay. Hearing that, Mosquito Dauren agreed immediately. Even if Fong Qingshan did not say anything, Mosquito Dauren would not let go of those corpses and broken artifacts. To others, those corpses and broken artifacts might not be very valuable. However, Mosquito Dauren was not afraid. Regardless of whether they were complete or broken, as long as they contained origin, he did not mind. Thinking about the billions of corpses and broken artifacts on the battlefield, Mosquito Dauren could not help but salivate. Although they had been cultivating in the Blood Sea all these years, it was not that they did not know anything about the Desolation Continent and the Dragon of Phoenix battlefield. Putting everything else aside, just the Blood Sea alone had increased by 3 levels in the past thousands of years. Chapter 888. I can also prepare. In the East Sea, Yang Mei muttered to himself. Originally, what happened in the Desolation had nothing to do with him. The reason why he stayed in the Desolation was for 2 reasons. One was to see how the world opened up by Pangu was like. The other was to heal his injuries. Although he survived, the injuries caused by the heavens-splitting divine axe and Dutian thunder could not be healed in a short period of time. Now, Hongjun Tiandao had yet to be born. As a chaos demon god, he could still cultivate in seclusion and heal his injuries. Once the calamity ended and Hongjun Tiandao was born, he would be in trouble. Be it Pangu's will or Hongjun Tiandao's will, they would not allow him to stay in the Desolation as a chaos demon god. Therefore, before that, he needed a plan and make Hongjun Tiandao owe him karma to buy more time. Moreover, participating in the calamity would allow him to obtain merits. Using the merits to heal his injuries could speed up his recovery. Therefore, this was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Yang Mei did not want to let it go. Putting aside Hongjun, Fong Qingshan, and Yang Mei's respective plans, Ancestral Gragon and the other 2 who were trapped in the celestial slaying sword formation gathered together instantly. They stood back to back and looked around vigilantly. "Who are you? Why are you making things difficult for us?" Sky Phoenix asked in a deep voice. "At a time like this, don't you know what kind of person I am?" Ro laughed strangely. "It's you. You're the one who schemed against us. You're the one who caused the deaths of our men. It's you, it's you." Ancestral Gragon stared at Ro, wishing he could eat him alive. "Smart, but it's too late." Ro smiled and did not explain. Other than himself, there were also Wuxing, Hongjun, and the others. For him, Ancestral Gragon and the others were already fish on the board, waiting to be slaughtered. His top priority was to use the boundless flesh and blood on the battlefield and the 3 of them to sacrifice the celestial slaying sword formation and then kill Hongjun in order to prove his Tao. "Accept your fate. I will not forget you after I achieve Tao. Neither copper, nor iron, nor steel. It was once hidden under Mount Meru. Without yin and yang reverse refining, how can there be no water and fire to temper it? Zhu Xian is sharp. Slay Xian is deadly. Trap Xian emits red light everywhere. En Xian is full of miraculous transformations. The blood of great Luo immortals stains their clothes." As soon as his voice fell, Luo, who raised his hand and shot out a divine thunder. The aura was similar to the thunder formed after the gate of eternal life sacrificed the immortal world, the divine thunder of destruction. All of a sudden, the 4 sword gates of the immortal slaying sword formation shook at the same time. Boundless sword chi burst out and swept toward ancestral Gragon and the other two. For a moment, all the radiance was swallowed up. It was as if the rising sun had fallen into the mortal world, making it impossible to look at. If you want to step on the corpses of our three clans to achieve your own success, let's see if your mouth is that good. The ancestral dragon let out a furious roar, opened his mouth, and spat out an egg-sized dark green bead towards Luo Ho. Faintly, one could hear the sound of the rising tide and the worshipping of tens of thousands of dragons. This bead was the natal dragon bead, which the ancestral dragon had been refining ever since he was born. Ancestral dragon bead. At the same time, a door flew out of ancestral Gragon's hand and smashed towards the celestial slaying sword formation. However, it exuded a powerful pressure. One could almost see countless true dragons roaring and soaring, vivid and lifelike. Dragon Gate. It was rumored that anyone with dragon blood could evolve into a true dragon as long as they crossed the Dragon Gate. It was a treasure refined by ancestral Gragon, considering that the dragon race could not reproduce, and purebred true dragons were especially rare. This door not only had auxiliary effects, but it was also the best choice for suppressing attacks. At the same time ancestral Gragon made his move, the celestial phoenix and ancestral Qilin also made their moves. The heavenly phoenix first took out her life plume feather. With a brush, an indescribably gorgeous and brilliant light bloomed. Boundless true fire, burning heaven and earth, Nanmingly fire, Nirvana true fire, 9 underworld earth fire, 9 heavens astral fire. Then she summoned a purple hammer that flashed with electric sparks. It was the purple lightning hammer. Even sect leader Tong Tian, who had become a sage, was still using this top-notch Khanate spiritual treasure. One could imagine its power. Moreover, the wind helped the fire, and the fire borrowed the power of the wind. Wind and fire had a superimposed effect, and the same was true for thunder and fire. Red flames and purple thunder intertwined like a heavenly tribulation. The ancestral Qilin summoned a 5-colored auspicious cloud to protect itself. At the same time, the auspicious light on it constantly weakened the evil Qi in the formation. This treasure was formed by the auspicious Qi of heaven and earth. Although it was not as good as the exquisite pagoda of heaven and earth, it was comparable to the auspicious clouds of the heavenly lord of Yuanshi. Then he summoned another mountain treasure, the 10,000 feet mountain, and pressed it down on Ro. As the supreme beast of the land, the Qilin controlled the desolation continent. As the 10,000 feet mountain fell, it seemed to gather the tens of thousands of mountains in the desolation continent. The shadows of Mount Meru, Shoyang, Kunlun, the 5 sacred mountains, and even Mount Bujo were projected over. Looking at the treasures that ancestral Gragon and the other two took out, Ro could not help but feel envious. As one of the main characters of the Great Tribulation, the three of them had a lot of good things. However, when it thought that these things would be its spoils of war after the three of them were defeated, Ro became happy again. Haha, if you were all at your peak, I might have to spend a lot of effort to deal with you. Ro looked at the resistance of ancestral Gragon and the other two with a hint of mockery on his face. But now, how much strength do you have? How many waves of sword chi attacks can you block? When ancestral Gragon and the other two heard this, although they knew that Ro was attacking them, they could not help but feel gloomy and despair. Ignoring the fairy slaying sword formation, Ro sacrificed the formation and besieged ancestral Gragon and the other two. At this moment, after Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowren left the Blood Sea, they each took action. Fong Qingshan handed the timeless arc to Mosquito Dowren and asked him to head to the fairy slaying sword formation and wait for an opportunity to take down the 5 Elements Patriarch. This was to prepare for Fong Qingshan to steal the creation. On the other hand, he acted as a scavenger and made a lot of money from the war. The 1 meter higher sky collected the corpses and damaged spiritual treasures on the battlefield. If possible, he could snatch food from the tiger's mouth at the last moment and get a few treasures from Hongjun. What about Feng Qingshan himself? After using the one Qi-turning Sanqing magical power, he parted ways with his doppelgangers. His main body and two doppelgangers went to the treasure vaults of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin clans, respectively. The remaining doppelganger went to the treasure vaults of the vassal clans of the Dragon, Phoenix, and Phoenix clans. For example, the White Tiger clan, the Black Tortoise clan, and the Vermilion Bird clan. Although these clans could not be compared to the Dragon and Phoenix clans, they were second only to them. There were many treasures in their clans. Their treasure vaults might not be comparable to the Dragon and Phoenix clans, but Feng Qingshan did not mind. Many a little makes a mickle. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. With Mosquito Dowrin, he could not and did not need to be picky. At this moment, most of the forces of the Scale, Beast, and Bird clans had been deployed to the battlefield by the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin. The bases of the clans were empty, and it was the best time to take action. Chapter 889. Compared to the treasure vaults of the other races, the Dragon race's treasure vault was not very secretive, and the security was not very tight. Firstly, the good stuff had basically been taken out for battle. Secondly, the Dragon race was very confident that no one would dare to mess with them. Therefore, Feng Qingshan easily found the location of the treasure vault. Due to the war, most of the good stuff had been transferred away or used by the Dragon race in advance. For example, all kinds of killing and defensive spiritual treasures had obviously been distributed in advance. All kinds of treasures that could improve cultivation, replenish dermic powers, and heal injuries had obviously been used before the war. Treasures for 1,000 days, treasures for a single day. What was the purpose of the treasure vault? It was for the decisive battle, or for the time to rise again. Therefore, less than 10% of the things in the treasure vault were left. Regarding this, Feng Qingshan had already expected this. Therefore, although he felt a little regretful, he did not mind. Most importantly, even the leftovers were enough for Feng Qingshan to earn a fortune. It was the Dragon Phoenix tribulation, and it had not been long since the world opened. In some places, there was still mixed eras spiritual energy that had not been converted into connate spiritual energy. The water was still connate Kue water, the earth was still connate earth, the air was still high-quality connate spiritual energy, and even the starlight was still the thick primordial starlight. These things might be too common in the eyes of the people now, and were not particularly precious. Or rather, they cannot use them perfectly. After all, Daozu had not preached Tao. Living beings at this time, even their cultivation was based on the inherited memories of their bloodline. It was not appropriate at all, not to mention the 100 arts of cultivation, alchemy, and weapon refinement. However, they did not know, but Feng Qingshan did. These things were already rare treasures in the future, or even in the great world of the journey to the west, or even the great world of the gods. Other than the treasure vaults of the mighty figures and the dojos of the saints, it was rare in the world. Therefore, although he did not get many connate spiritual treasures, Feng Qingshan was still very satisfied. Contentment was everlasting happiness. Moreover, it was not that Feng Qingshan did not get any good things. The only thing that made him unhappy was that he was still a step too slow. He only had time to loot the treasury of the Dragon Palace. When he went to the treasury of the Phoenix clan and the Qilin clan, it was already empty. It was obvious that someone had gotten the treasures before him. Looks like it's Hong Jun. Feng Qingshan only had to think about it for a moment before he knew who the thief was. He had been wondering why Hong Jun had not made a move yet. It turned out that they had the same idea as him, which was to loot the treasury of the three clans first. Fortunately, he had acted quickly and managed to snatch the Dragon clan's treasury. Otherwise, he would have suffered a great loss. However, Feng Qingshan was still very satisfied with his gains. There was no treasure in the Dragon Palace. This saying was still spreading in the journey to the West World. Compared to the Phoenix clan, who liked to collect all kinds of rare treasures, the Dragon clan also liked to collect all kinds of rare treasures. Therefore, even though he had used up more than 80% of his collection to prepare for the battle, The remaining treasures still made Fang Qingshan excited. What Fang Qingshan had obtained from the eternal life forces was not worth mentioning compared to the dragon and phoenix clans. Although there were almost no ordinary spiritual treasures, there were basically no things that could increase combat effectiveness in a short period of time. But other materials for alchemy and refining were piled up like a mountain. These items were equivalent to the heavenly treasures of the eternal life world, not to mention the various innate spiritual roots that were bare but still extremely precious. In particular, there were several top-level innate spiritual treasures, not to mention the materials for alchemy and refining. Let's talk about the innate spiritual roots first. Although most of them were low-grade and middle-grade innate spiritual roots, but there were also 8 high-grade innate spiritual roots. There was even a top-level innate spiritual root. Although this was not the top 10 innate spiritual roots of the desolation, it was already rare and precious. Moreover, Fang Qingshan felt that even compared with the top 10 innate spiritual roots of the desolation, this tree of all transformations is not much inferior. The tree of all transformations, not the ever-changing tree of all transformations, can devour all kinds of treasures, souls, flesh, and blood, just like the mosquito Dauren, and then nurture all kinds of different treasures. It can be elixir, it can also be a magical power, it can even be a living spiritual treasure. As for the specific quality of the treasure nurtured, it depends on what it is devoured. The more precious the devour, the more precious the nurture. In addition to the spiritual roots, there are also top-level innate spiritual treasures. The reason why there are still so many top-level innate spiritual treasures left behind is that these spiritual treasures are not offensive or defensive treasures, but auxiliary spiritual treasures or magic treasures with special purposes. There are a total of 6, most of which belong to the dragon race. The only one is from the white tiger race, and it is one of the Khanate 5-direction flags that Fang Qingshan valued the most, the western white cloud boundary flag. Although he did not know why the white tiger race did not bring it to participate in the war, perhaps because they were not confident and were afraid of falling into the hands of others after it fell, he did not expect to be able to keep it in the end, allowing Fang Qingshan to take advantage of it. The remaining 5 are the 4 Seas Bell, the Dragon Transformation Pool, the 4 Seas Painting, the Dragon Carving Platform, and the Dragon Whip. These things are useful for controlling the 4 Seas or restraining the dragon race. But for Fang Qingshan, they are not very useful, and he cannot take them out openly to use. Otherwise, the dragon race will probably not rest until one of them is dead, although Fang Qingshan is not afraid. But it does not matter, they are useless to him, and he cannot take them out. He can totally give them to the mosquito Dauren to digest. He does not refuse any resources, whether they are spirit roots, spirit treasures, or other natural treasures. While Fang Qingshan and his clone are plundering the dragon race, and even the treasuries of the various races under him, Mosquito Dauren is not idle. If at this moment, looking down from the starry sky, one will discover that the entire desolation is like a graveyard. Dragon, phoenix, qilin, white tiger, black tortoise, ape, monkey, snake, bifong, green wan. All kinds of corpses were strewn all over the place. Their numbers were in the hundreds of millions, and they were truly innumerable. They were piled up like a mountain on the ground. Every single one of them was close to 100 zhang in size, and the big ones were more than 10,000 zhang in size. At first glance, they looked like mountains. As for the blood, it is flowing like a river surrounding these mountains, surrounded by mountains and water, but there is no comfort at all. Instead, it makes one feel fear from the soul. Mosquito Dauren is riding the timeless ark, wandering, but he cannot control himself, like a miser, watching the treasure vault fill up at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, wherever the heavenly ark passed, beams of invisible divine light flashed, with the heavenly ark as the center, sweeping through the surroundings. Wherever it passed, whether it was the dragon, phoenix, qilin, or affiliated races, whether big or small, whether it was a corpse or a broken spiritual treasure, All of them disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. They disappeared directly from the ground, from the void, as if they had turned into nothingness, completely dissipating into nothingness. Chapter 890. At this moment, if someone looked down at the desolation from the starry sky, they would find that there were 3 arrowheads and 3 roads, which were spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, this time, it was not the Dragon and Phoenix clans passing through. Instead, it was Fang Qingshan, Hong Jun, and Ro clearing the roads. Ro set up the fairy slaying sword matrix in the west. The evil chi soared into the sky, stirring up the wind and clouds. With the fairy slaying sword matrix as the center, a large number of corpses, blood, and evil chi were drawn over and swallowed by the sword matrix to increase its power. Fang Qingshan came out of the Blood Sea, and Hong Jun came to Jade Capital. The two of them had similar goals, yet different ones. Mosquito Dowran was purely for resources. Whether it was corpses or spiritual treasures, incomplete or complete, as long as there was still power of the origin, even if it was a fragment, Mosquito Dowran would not let it go. He would let the timeless arc collect them all. These were the foundation and nutrients for his evolution. He could not let them go to waste. Especially after he broke through to Sage to Be, the resources he needed and his cultivation increased by leaps and bounds. But what about Hong Jun? On the one hand, it was to compete with Ro and not let the fairy-slaying sword matrix absorb so much evil chi. If the sword matrix became more powerful, it would be difficult for him to deal with later. On the other hand, cleaning these corpses could purify the desolation of heaven and earth and weaken the evil chi of the great trial. This would not only weaken the power of Ro, but also be of great virtue to heaven and earth. It was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. In addition, although most of the spiritual treasures in the Mountain of Corpses and Sea of Blood were damaged, some of them were complete. Hong Jun had also selected them as a precaution in preparation for the Purple Cloud Palace's distribution of the treasures in the future. 3 people, 3 divided the world. Especially Mosquito Dowran's movements were fast and ruthless. Hong Jun was still picking and choosing. Ro turned into a whirlpool, waiting for the baleful force to automatically come to it, and he took the initiative to attack. Not long after, wherever the timeless arc passed, it was like the 1 meter higher sky. No matter which clan's corpses, complete or broken spiritual treasures, they were all swept away. Mosquito Dowran's movements were so loud that it naturally alerted the bystanders. Damn it, what's going on? Ro was the first to roar. He did not deal with the ancestral dragon and the other 2 in a thunderous manner. Firstly, they were like turtles in a jar. Secondly, he wanted to use the corpses of the 3 races to refine the celestial slaying sword formation. He wanted to further perfect it and increase its power. After all, his greatest enemy had never been ancestral Gragon and the others, but Hong Jun. As the saying goes, the person who understands you the most is your enemy. Naturally, Ro knew how difficult it was to deal with Hong Jun, so he needed to make many preparations. He did not expect that at this critical juncture, someone would fight with him for resources. The celestial slaying sword formation, which was originally in full swing, suddenly slowed down. Who is it? Who is it that wants to go against the patriarch? Is it Hong Jun? Ro's eyes flashed with coldness, and he flew into a rage. Die, die, die! Ro released his primordial spirit and looked at the mountains of corpses and seas of blood that had suddenly disappeared, as if they had evaporated into thin air. He was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. Feeling the aura of the timeless arc in Hong Jun, Ro was furious. He had wanted to immediately take his sword and settle the score with them. Unfortunately, the ancestral dragon and the other 2 were still trapped in the sword formation, so he immediately vented his anger on them. He formed a hand seal, and lightning flashed. The entire sword body emitted a demonic red light, and the sword formation's power suddenly increased. With the celestial slaying sword formation as the center, all the mountains of corpses and seas of blood within the range of the malevolent chi formation were instantly devoured by the four giant swords. Under Ro's control, the four giant swords flew out of the formation door and merged into one in the blink of an eye. The primordial chaos sword reappeared. Although it was no longer a chaos spiritual artifact, in terms of power, it was a notch higher than the Godslayer. Although it had only merged for a short period of time, it was enough to deal with the ancestral dragon and the other two. A blood-red giant sword comparable to Mount Bujo appeared out of thin air. Then, a huge chaotic sword chi shot out from the giant sword and slashed at the ancestral dragon and the other two. Ancestral dragon and the other two immediately paled. Even if they were at their peak, it would not be easy for them to withstand this attack, let alone now that their strength had been greatly reduced. The three of them quickly gathered together and formed a three-talents formation. Then, they used their respective spiritual artifacts to defend themselves. It's useless. No matter how much you resist, it's futile. Just accept your fate. After the sword chi, Ro waved his hand, and the giant sword instantly fell into his hand. It was Ro's natal spiritual artifact, after all. The moment it fell into Ro's hand, it kept humming. Old friend, don't be anxious. The feast that I prepared for you has just begun. Let's use them to test the sword first. Later, we'll deal with those reckless fools from Hongjun. As long as we kill them all and absorb all their malevolent chi, the formation will be successfully condensed and merged into one. Then, even the heaven-splitting treasure might not be able to catch up. As soon as he finished speaking, the magic power in his body poured into the primordial chaos sword like a broken dam. Then, he raised the giant sword and swung it fiercely. In an instant, hundreds of chaotic sword chi shot out and shot at the ancestral dragon and the other two people in the formation. What's going on? Why are there still people secretly collecting the corpses? At this moment, in addition to Ro, Hongjun and the others naturally noticed the like-minded Mosquito Dorn's actions. They were not surprised by Mosquito Dorn's actions, but by Mosquito Doran himself. After all, the power that Timeless Arc faintly revealed was not inferior to theirs at all. More importantly, Mosquito Doran and Timeless Arc had never appeared before. It was as if they had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Especially at a crucial moment when they were going to deal with Ro, they could not help but be more vigilant. Who is this person secretly cleaning up the corpses? Such a large number of corpses disappearing in such a casual manner. The person secretly cleaning up the corpses is definitely not simple. He must be a top-notch powerhouse. Could it be that he has some use for these corpses? It doesn't matter. Who is this person in the dark? What does he want? What he's doing now is also beneficial to us. That's right. Cleaning up these corpses is actually dispelling the murderous aura and alleviating the great calamity. Most importantly, he's still competing with Ro. If Ro's immortal slaying sword formation completely devours all the flesh and blood, then we'll be in big trouble. That's right. From his actions, it seems that he's not in cahoots with Ro. That's the key. Not good. Ancestral Dragon and the other two can't hold on any longer. Let's act quickly. Just as they were discussing Mosquito Doran, Wuxing and the others suddenly heard Hongjuan's exclamation. Then, they saw him pounce towards the immortal slaying sword formation. If you want us to die, don't think you'll have it easy either. Explode. Before Hongjun and the others could act, they heard Ancestral Dragon, Sky Phoenix, and Ancestral Qilin roar madly from within the immortal slaying sword formation. Chapter 891. Rumble. Then, a heaven-splitting sound was heard. Even through the fairy slaying sword array, the sound could be heard in desolation. Ancestral Gragon and the other two had detonated their natal treasures, dragon pearls, tail feathers, and so on. Taking the enemy by surprise, they tore a hole in the celestial slaying sword formation. Then, with a flick of their hands, they sent the remaining forces of the three clans out. Following that, without saying a word, the three of them even self-destructed themselves. It was not that Ancestral Gragon and the other two did not want to live. If possible, who would not want to live? especially people like them who held power and stood at the pinnacle of desolation. Unfortunately, this was not up to them. After all, Ro would definitely not let them go. They could not escape. Moreover, as emperors, they would rather die standing than live on their knees. Also, they hoped that their self-destruction could hurt Ro and fight for a chance of survival for their clans. However, they were thinking too much. Without Hong Jun, the final outcome would be the destruction of the three clans. Damn it, Ro was furious. He was a chaotic demon god. After reincarnating, he could still fight with Hong Jun for the position of Hong Jun Tiandao Saint. He had only lost to Pangu. Now, he almost failed miserably and was hurt by Ancestral Gragon and the others. How could Ro not be angry? I will exterminate all three of your clans. Unfortunately, before Ro could act violently, he heard a voice that he did not want to hear the most. Lying high in the clouds, I am the true Taoist. Beyond the heaven and earth, I am the sect master. Pangu gave birth to Tai Chi, Yin and Yang, and the four symbols. Xianmen are the best, and Hong Jun is the best. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of people led by Hong Jun entered through the hole that was just torn open. Sai, Taoist. This cultivation calamity was born from the three races of dragon, phoenix, and qilin. Desolation was caused by the three races of dragon, phoenix, and qilin. Not even 1 out of 10 of them survived the calamity. If we can't make up for it, I'm afraid that the three races of dragon, phoenix, and qilin will inevitably decline or even go extinct. The reason why Hong Jun was able to escape so quickly was because Ancestral Gragon and the other two still had the mandate of heaven. They cannot die just like that. Otherwise, where would he go to find suitable people to suppress the 5 directions? Fortunately, the 3 of them had self-detonated, and their souls were still intact. Hong Jun immediately heaved a sigh of relief. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a 12th grade virtuous golden lotus to protect the souls of the 3. Please guide me, Taoist. Ancestral Gragon and the other 2 fell silent for a moment when they saw Hong Jun's group arrive in time. Then, they spoke with a bitter smile. They originally wanted to self-detonate to end all troubles and fight for a chance of survival for their clansmen. Little did he expect that it would only cause some trouble for Ro. Hearing Hong Jun's words, he knew what he meant. What else could he say? They were meat on the chopping block. For the sake of their clansmen, they could only pin their hopes on Hong Jun. If that's the case, the 3 of you, Hong Jun had already prepared a set of words. As soon as Ancestral Gragon and the other 2 finished their words, he began to speak. I see. Hee. The mandate of heaven, Hong Jun Tiandao. Ha ha. If you don't become a sage, you'll always be an ant. After hearing Hong Jun's words, Ancestral Gragon and the other 2's minds were clear. They instantly understood the cause and effect. However, whether it was for the continuation of their clansmen or for their own lives, they had no other choice. Fortunately, this choice was not too bad for them. It could be considered as Hong Jun Tiandao's compensation for being a pioneer for them. The 5 sacred beasts of heaven and earth were comparable to sages. Other than not being able to leave their posts, there were no other disadvantages. Moreover, it could eliminate karma and continue the clan. I, Ancestral Gragon, have sinned greatly. I'm willing to turn into the Azure Dragon and guard the East forever. The Dragon Clan will forever guard the 4 seas to atone for my sins. I, Phoenix Master, have sinned greatly. I'm willing to turn into the Vermilion Bird and guard the South forever. The Phoenix Clan will forever guard the undying volcano to atone for my sins. I, Ancestral Qilin, have sinned greatly. I'm willing to turn into the auspicious sign and guard the land of desolation forever. I won't come out until the cultivation calamity to atone for my sins. As soon as he spoke, there was a clap of thunder in the clear sky. Somehow a contract was formed. Hong Jun Tiandao sensed it and sent down boundless karma. A part of it landed on the Ancestral Gragon and the other 2's primordial spirits. They immediately returned to their positions. With the 5 sacred beasts guarding the land of desolation, Hong Jun Tiandao was perfected. The damaged land that had just gone through the cultivation calamity was immediately repaired. The other part of the karma landed on the three clans' fate. However, it immediately disappeared without a trace. The karma was offset by the karma ancestor. The clansmen that were sent out by ancestral Gragon and the other two sensed their situation and couldn't help but cry out. However, they couldn't win against ancestral Gragon. In order not to go extinct and for the continuation of their clans, they could only bear with the pain and glare at Ro before leaving. Since then, the three clans that were originally extremely powerful had left the stage of desolation. Hongjun, you're still as despicable as ever. Not only did you lie to ancestral Gragon and the others, you even lied to your best friend. However, do you think that you can win me with them? Wishful thinking. I'll let you know that as long as the fairy slaying sword formation exists, numbers are useless. Ro wasn't surprised by Hongjun's appearance at all. It didn't even care about ancestral Gragon and the other two and turn into the five sacred beasts. Instead, it seized the time to repair the damage caused to the fairy slaying sword formation by the self-destruction of ancestral Gragon and the karma. Fairy slaying sword formation. Kill immortals and gods. Destroy everything. Go! After it was ready, Ro shouted and unleashed the full power of the fairy slaying sword formation. It evolved into a world of massacre. The four fairy slaying sword were like the four spirits of heaven and earth, suppressing the four directions. Rumble. The four swords suddenly released endless killing energy. This killing energy was different from the usual red killing energy. It was pure black, almost the same as the divine thunder of destruction. It emitted a will that could kill immortals and gods, sink the heavens and earth, and destroy all existence. An absolute suppression descended from the sky. Hongjun and the others instantly felt their magic power stagnate. Their strength was suppressed by 30%. They felt as if there was a blade on their backs, and cold sweat broke out. They instinctively wanted to use their treasures to defend themselves. When Hongjun and the others saw this, their expressions finally changed. It was obvious that the fairy slaying sword formation was stronger than they had expected. Taoist, act according to the plan. Hongjun said to the five elements' old ancestor and the others and took the lead. He took a step forward and occupied the center of the formation, standing in front of Ro. He stepped forward, and the 12th grade golden lotus of karma shone brightly. The boundless golden light of karma protected him. The jade butterfly of creation appeared above his head, and the great path intertwined. Although it wasn't a defensive treasure, it was the only one that still retained the chaotic attribute. It was extremely mysterious. He waved the Pangu banner in his hand, and a beam of mixed essence, sword chi, shot out. Whoosh! In an instant, the world seemed to be filled with the wailing of demons and ghosts. It was as if a funeral song written for ghosts and gods was played. The sword chi was sacred and vast, as if the scene of Pangu splitting the sky was replayed. The entire fairy slaying sword formation let out a cry. Chapter 892. Hongjun had already learned from Hongjun Tiandao about the immortal slaying sword formation in Ro's hands, so he made a plan in advance. He discussed with Wuxing and others. After entering the formation, he would sit in the center and hold Ro. Wuxing, Yin and Yang, Qingquan, Reversal, and others would go to the four formation gates of the immortal slaying sword formation. As long as the four immortal slaying sword were taken down, the formation would collapse by itself. Damn it, Ro didn't expect Hongjun to be so fierce, and he used a killing move as soon as he made a move. His face froze, and he quickly urged the immortal slaying sword formation. He made a gesture with his hand, and a series of destructive thunder that seemed to devour all the light flew out. In a split second, it blasted on the four sword gates. In an instant, the four immortal slaying swords shone brightly. Boundless evil chi, murderous chi, sword chi, thunder, destruction, and other forces intertwined, forming four huge black runes: punish, trap, slaughter, and exterminate. These 4 words are like the 5 elements incantation of the immortal world, the 9 words incantation, the 33 heavens, ancient characters, and so on. At the moment when the runes were completely formed, there was a sound of swords. At first, it was as weak as a mosquito, but it gradually rose like a tiger's roar, a dragon's roar, and finally resounded through the 9 heavens. The 4 giant swords made a long roar, and the whole body flashed with a dark light. The mighty murderous chi formed 4 tornadoes, connecting the sky and the earth. At the moment when Hong Jun wanted to hold Ro, whooshing old ancestor and others had already begun to go to the 4 sword gates, according to the plan. Don't even think about it. Seeing this scene, Ro was anxious. The 4 Tao characters of slaughter, trap, and exterminate immediately rushed toward Hong Jun, cutting and shattering countless spaces along the way. 4 extreme killing will locked Hong Jun in the air. At the same time, there was another splash, and a slightly weaker sword chi swept toward Wuxing and others. Obviously, they didn't want them to go to the formation gate. Hong Jun did not panic. First, they guarded their borders. The golden light under his feet emitted countless rays of golden light, forming the illusion of a golden lotus. The jade butterfly of fortune appeared above his head, and the 3,000 great paths flew out like heavenly pillars, emitting countless rays of light. The heavenly pillars and the golden flowers intertwined, forming an absolute vacuum around Hong Jun. At the same time, he wasn't just taking a beating without fighting back. With a dragon head cane in one hand and a Pangu banner in the other, he charged towards Ro. He didn't want to win, but he wanted to avoid making mistakes. As long as he could stall Ro, it would be his victory. As for the other attacks, the 5-element patriarchs also had their own treasures in their hands. Despite the overwhelming attacks, they didn't hesitate in the slightest as they steadily walked toward the formation door. Seeing that, Ro seemed to be a little anxious. The 4 Zhu Xian swords could not be moved anymore. Otherwise, once 5 elements and the others arrived at the array door, breaking it would be as easy as flipping their palms. However, the fact that the 4 Zhu Xian swords could not be used did not mean that Ro had no other means. He took out 2 treasures, the God Slayer in one hand and the Heavenly Demon Blade in the other. He stepped on the 12th stage Black Lotus of Destruction, with the Heavenly Demon Tower on his head, and fought with Hong Jun. He seemed to want to get rid of Hong Jun as soon as possible and control the formation to prevent the 5-element patriarchs from breaking it. Unfortunately, he was pinned down by Hong Jun, and there was no time for him to do anything else. At the same time, the 5-element patriarchs and the others had arrived in front of their respective formation doors. Although the 5-element patriarchs were slightly weaker than Ro and Hong Jun, it was not difficult for them to take down the 4 Zhu Xian swords after Ro was pinned down by Hong Jun. The Heaven and Earth ancestor had the cauldron of heaven and earth above his head, and held the map of heaven and earth, and the ruler of heaven and earth to attack, the trapping celestial sword. The Yin and Yang ancestor held the Tai Chi diagram to stop the celestial slaying sword, and the mountain river map in his hand to attack the celestial slaying sword. The inverted ancestor held the ruler of order, and his body was wrapped in the flag of chaos to fight the celestial slashing sword. Because Ro was pinned down by Hong Jun, the operation of the formation was not smooth. Although the 4 Zhu Xian swords and the Zhu Xian sword formation were sharp, under the full force of the 5-element patriarchs, they were gradually losing ground. However, at this time, Ro was not in a hurry. Haha, Hong Jun, you've been tricked. After a while, when the 5-element patriarchs and the others thought that victory was in their grasp, and the Zhu Xian sword formation was about to be broken, Ro felt that the time was ripe and suddenly laughed. Hong Jun's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. Before he could react, he saw Ro's eyes flash with a fierce look. Following that, within the celestial slaying sword formation, 4 terrifying auras shot up into the sky. From the 4 formation gates of the Zhu Xian sword formation, ferocious auras were emitted. Following that, 4 figures that resembled fiend gods appeared. They were 4 giant battle apes. In terms of auras, These apes were only slightly weaker than Ro and Hong Jun, and they were comparable to the five-element patriarchs and the others. The ape in the Zhu Xiansword formation had extremely long arms. It could hold the sun and the moon, shrink 1,000 mountains, distinguish between right and wrong, and play with the universe. It was a tongback ape. Its entire body emitted an ancient charm, and its entire body was filled with towering flames. It looked like a fire phoenix. Within the Zhu Xiansword formation was a red-bottomed horse ape. It understood yin and yang, understood human affairs, and was good at entering and exiting, avoiding death and prolonging life. Although it could not compare to the tongback ape's play with the universe, it had great strength and momentum. It held the 9 heavens dragon in its hand and stepped on the towering blue waves. Within the Zhu Xiansword formation was a 6-eared macaque. It was good at hearing, could discern, knew the front and back, and knew everything. Its body was wrapped in boundless whirlwinds. It was like a chaotic storm, an apocalyptic natural disaster that swept in all directions, destroying everything. Within the Zhu Xiansword formation was a spiritual stone monkey. It was proficient in transformations, knew the weather, knew the geography, and could move the stars. Its body trembled, and strands of golden monkey hair turned into countless golden beams of light, shooting out. Every strand of hair turned into an avatar in an instant, just like the blood god of the Nether River. The aura of the blood mosquito avatar of the mosquito Taoist was only one realm lower than that of the mosquito Taoist. Chaotic world, 4 spiritual monkeys. If Fang Qingshan was here, he would be able to recognize the origins of these 4 monkeys at a glance. Each of the 4 monkeys held a metal cudgel that was completely forged from chaos bronze. They looked at the 5-element patriarchs and the others, revealing malevolent smiles. Kill! The 4 of them let out a violent bellow at the same time. The metal cudgel trembled and instantly lashed out toward the 5-element patriarchs and the others. As the cudgel lashed out, a terrifying will suddenly erupted from the metal cudgel. It was as if the metal cudgel contained a supreme will that was lawless and out of control. Boundless killing intent and calamity force were transmitted from the metal cudgel. When the heavens emitted killing intent, the stars would shift. When the earth emitted killing intent, dragons and snakes would rise from the land. When humans emitted killing intent, heaven and earth would turn upside down. For an instant, everything would be destroyed. Plants would cease to exist, and the sun and moon would lose their radiance. Before the metal cudgel landed, that indestructible will and intent first swept toward the primordial spirits of the 5-element patriarchs and the others. When the 3-backed macaque's cudgel landed, there was a fire phoenix undergoing nirvana, incinerating the heavens and destroying the earth. It was as if it wanted to boil the entire desolation. When the 6-eared macaque's cudgel landed, there was a boundless whirlwind that swept out like a chaotic storm, an apocalyptic wind disaster. When the spiritual stone monkey's cudgel landed, it was as if the boundless power of the earth was supporting it. It contained the terrifying power of 10,000 mountains and the supreme will of the earth. When the red-bottomed horse ape's cudgel landed, it was as if the 4 seas were overturned. Chapter 893. All the arrays in the world could not escape the category of 1 yuan, 2 polarities, 3 talents, for symbols, 5 elements, 6 directions, and 7 stars. Even top-notch array formations and the 3 ultimate arrays of the primordial world were the same. They were all evolved from basic array formations. For example, the yin and yang dust sword array was evolved from the yin and yang formation, and the 9 yellow river formation was evolved from the 9 palace formation. The immortal slaying sword array was also evolved from the 4 symbols formation. The 4 spiritual monkeys of chaos worked perfectly with the 4 symbols earth, wind, water, and fire. It worked perfectly with the immortal slaying sword array. This wasn't just the effect of 1 + 1 = 2. It was the effect of 3, 5, or 10. Although the immortal slaying sword array was powerful. It could be broken as long as the power of 4 people was greater. For example, sect leader Tongtian's array was broken by Laozi and the others, and Ro's array was broken by Hongjuan's 5. That's right, although it was the power of 4 people who set up the formation, not 4 times. The power of the 5 elements great ancestor and the others was not just 4 times, but far more than 4 times. Although it was not easy to meet this condition, it was still a big loophole. One person could suppress one array door and remove the 4 directions divine swords, and the array would collapse by itself. The divine swords were sharp, but they were not living creatures. Although they had spirituality, they were still far inferior to the people who could break the array. This was different from magic treasures with device spirits, arrays with formation spirits, and the timeless arc of the eternal spirit. Even without the control of its master, it could exert 100% or even 120% of its power. Therefore, even though Tongtian's formation was set up by Laozi and the other 3 were able to break it easily. But it was different now. With the 4 spiritual monkeys of chaos guarding the array, it was impregnable. The 2 complemented each other, like adding wings to a tiger. The power of the array increased rapidly, and the difficulty of breaking its sword. In the past, it could not be broken unless it was the 4 sages. Now, it would be difficult even if there was another sage. During the War of God's Investiture, sect leader Tongtian had this trick, so Laozi and the others could hardly break it. After all, in the entire desolation, apart from Daozu and himself, there were only 5 sages. The 5 sacred beasts of heaven and earth, the Hutu of the underworld, and the others could not leave the area they were guarding. Unfortunately, such a fortuitous encounter could only be chanced upon and not sought. If it wasn't for the fact that Hongjun Tiandao wanted to use Ro to train Hongjun, it wouldn't have had such an opportunity. Let's not talk about that for the time being. On the other side, Hongjun and the others almost couldn't react to Luo Ho's sudden outburst. Damn it, this was especially true for the 5 elements old ancestor and the others. They hadn't expected Ro to have such a trick up its sleeve. Faced with such a situation, their expressions immediately changed, and they almost suffered a small loss. They had originally thought that although the immortal eradication sword formation was powerful, with so many of them joining forces, wouldn't it be a cinch to break the formation? Just as they had expected, Hongjun was holding back Ro while they each chose a sword's gate to suppress. Not long after, the array formation started to slow down as the power of the array formation started to recover. As time went by, the array formation was about to be breached. Unfortunately, they had expected the beginning of the story, but not the development. They hadn't expected Ro to have such a trick up its sleeve. Just as they saw the light of victory, it gave them a head-on blow. 4 doppelgangers, and the doppelgangers were no weaker than them. The key was that the doppelgangers had explosive fighting power, and their treasures were being held back by the 4 swords gates. The offensive and defensive momentum was different. Oh no, the 5 elements old ancestor and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. An ominous premonition arose in their hearts. As the saying goes, consider defeat before victory is calculated. In the face of such a sudden situation, the 5 elements old ancestors' first reaction was to defend the gate and then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. Therefore, the 5 elements old ancestor and the others wanted to take back the treasures that were suppressing the 4 swords gates, to deal with the attacks of the 4 spiritual monkeys. Unfortunately, this was the immortal eradication sword formation, not their backyard, where they could come and go as they pleased. There was no such thing as a free lunch. Good and evil would always be rewarded. It was just a matter of time. Previously, they were the ones who restrained the immortal eradication sword formation, suppressing the 4 swords and breaking the formation. Now, it was the 4 swords' turn to hold back their treasures. If the 5 elements old ancestor and the others dared to take away the treasures that were suppressing the 4 swords, they would immediately be greeted by a storm of sword chi before they could deal with the 4 spiritual monkeys. This was like 2 people competing with internal force. Once one side retreated rashly, not only would they suffer a backlash, but they would also face an even more violent counterattack from the other side. If they were not careful, they would be in trouble. Moreover, even if they took away the treasures, they would not be in a good situation. If they could not suppress the formation gate and the formation's power was fully unleashed, their strength would be suppressed in all aspects, such as the consumption of magic power, recovery, not being able to be replenished, and so on. In addition, facing the violent attacks of the four swords was more difficult than dealing with the attacks of the four spiritual monkeys. However, without the treasures in hand, they had to face the four spiritual monkeys who fought against heaven and earth. For a while, they were also stretched. They were in a dilemma. Cultivators were divided into body refinement, chi refinement, and so on. Although all roads led to Rome, freedom was more important. Therefore, most people walked the path of chi refinement. The difference between body refinement and chi refinement was equivalent to the difference between swordsmen and sorcerers. Body refinement people were meat shields. They were strong in close combat. Their bodies were holy and unparalleled. Chi refinement people were sorcerers. They were strong in long-range attacks. They could use their supernatural powers and dermic spells or all kinds of spiritual treasures. In a battle between body refinement and chi refinement warriors, once the distance was shortened, the result was self-evident. Especially when they did not have the treasures with them, they would definitely be suppressed by body refinement people. At this moment, 5 Elements' old ancestor and the others were in such a situation. Moreover, from the appearance of the 4 spiritual monkeys to the time they attacked 5 Elements' old ancestor and the others, it was completely in a flash. They did not give them the slightest time to react. 5 Elements' old ancestor and the others felt as if they had been hit by a heavy stick. If the 4 of them did not have their own means and did not simply rely on their treasures to run amok in the world, this unexpected attack could have consigned them to eternal damnation. Even though the 4 of them still had trump cards, they had lost the initiative and were at a disadvantage. Seeing this, Hongjun immediately wanted to help. 5 Elements' old ancestor and the others were a very important part of the plan. They were the people Hongjun specially prepared for Ro's immortal slaying array. Sadly, as the saying goes, the devil rises 10. Those who plot against others will be plotted against by others. Hongjun had 5 Elements' old ancestor plot against the immortal slaying array. Ro also had the 4 spiritual monkeys plot against 5 Elements' old ancestor and the others. Once Wu Xing and the others were defeated, but the immortal slaying sword formation was not broken, then his future days would not be easy. Although he still had other tricks up his sleeves, one wrong step would lead to many wrong steps. At their level, if they lost the initiative, it would not be easy to turn it back. Therefore, Hongjun immediately made his next move. Chapter 894. Please help me, Taoist. As soon as Hongjun's voice trailed off, the creation jade butterfly above their heads shone brightly. 3 figures materialized and jumped down from above, intending to rescue Wu Xing and the others. The 3 of them looked exactly the same as Hongjun. Even their auras were the same. However, their temperaments were very different. If one did not look at their faces, they would think that they were different people. One of them was surrounded by dark light and auspicious clouds. His face was full of compassion, like a merciful bodhisattva or Buddha, radiating light all over. He held the central Wuji apricot flag in one hand and the lotus lamp, one of the 4 heaven lamps, in the other. One person was like the heavenly Tao. He had no emotions and seemed to not care about anything. His faint golden eyes were filled with determination. His determination towards the great Tao would not waver even in death. He held a water purification bowl in one hand and the 8 sceneries palace lantern, one of the 4 heaven lamps, in the other. One of them was fierce and domineering. He had the power of all evil in the world. Those who did not know would think that he had a secret with Ro. He held the book of life and death of the 3 books of heaven, earth, and man in one hand, and the judge brush, a numinous treasure, in the other. You and I are one. It's our duty. There's no need for Taoists to thank us. The three of them bowed to Hongjun and said with a smile, "Three corpses incarnation." Although Hongjun did not have Laozi's Sanqing peerless divine power. However, the three corpses technique he created was not much worse than Sanqing's Sanqing technique. There was no sage to be before Hongjun. After Zenith Heaven was primordial chaos, Zenith Heaven, golden immortal. He was a pioneer among primordial chaos, golden immortals. Although it did not lower the difficulty of breaking through to primordial chaos, Zenith Heaven, golden immortal, it eased the situation after Zenith Heaven, golden immortal. Moreover, not only could he continue to improve his cultivation, but he could also obtain an additional combat power and a telepathic clone. Compared to the second primordial spirit, an incarnation was much more brilliant. However, because this was a Tao-proving technique and not a battle technique, the strength of the three corpses was slightly weaker than the main body. However, like the four spiritual monkeys of chaos, their strength was outstanding. Well done, Hongjun. No wonder it's the old ancestor's fated enemy. Although Hongjun's methods were out of Ro's expectations, it didn't discourage him. Instead, he felt that his opponent was a rare opponent. Although they were old enemies, heroes still cherished heroes. Hongjun's three corpses clone was about to leave to help five elements, old ancestor, and the others. How could Ro let him have his way? He was not a decoration. Moreover, Hongjun had already used a new method. If he didn't play a new card, wouldn't he be looked down upon by Hongjun? Previously, Hongjun delayed Ro and prevented him from helping the immortal slaying sword formation that was about to be broken. If he didn't have other methods, he could only watch as the formation was broken. Now, he was giving them a taste of their own medicine. It was now Ro's turn to delay him from helping the five elements, old ancestor, and the others who were in danger. At their level of cultivation, it wasn't easy to defeat someone, but it wasn't difficult to hold someone up. It was just like in the journey to the West world, when Juni delayed, Laozi and Yuhua delayed primordial. Although Hongjun had the three corpses clone, Ro also had other methods. Taoist, you should wait here patiently with me. Ro laughed. This was a feast that he had specially prepared for Hongjun. Ro knew that his immortal slaying sword formation was unparalleled. But he also knew that two fists were no match for four hands. Pangu was a powerful figure. With three chaos treasures, he could kill a chaos demon god with a single Dutian thunder. But what happened in the end? Although he killed 3,000 demon gods, he did not gain any advantage in the end. Therefore, during the first dire beast tribulation, after knowing that Hongjun was on good terms with the five elements old ancestor and the others, Ro knew that the immortal slaying sword formation alone was not enough. Fortunately, he was now considered a heaven's chosen one. Although he was Hongjun's stepping stone, just like the ancestral dragon and the others, he was also favored by fate before the tribulation. Heaven and earth were on his side. Once, when he went out to hunt for treasures, Ro accidentally found the remains of the four symbols demon gods. Therefore, after he refined them, extracted the demon gods' essence blood, evolved them into the chaotic four spiritual monkeys, and nurtured them with all kinds of resources, they finally helped him. How could Ro let Hongjun destroy such a beautiful place? Ro's heart skipped a beat. Then, before Hongjun and the three corpses incarnations could leave, they saw the world change and the stars move. When they came back to their senses, they were already in an unfamiliar space. It was like another world of desolation, but they could not sense the existence of Hongjun Tiandao at all. Lawless. It was very barren and the environment was harsh. Compared to the blessed grotto heaven of desolation, this place was barbaric. Although there were living creatures here, they were similar to sky demons, heart demons, Azuras, and people like Wu people. They were either strange or warlike. There was no peace, no fairness here. There was only killing, sadness, fear, hesitation, and other emotions. This was the source of corruption, the source of destruction, his embodiment of freedom. Hongjun could create the three corpses to prove his Tao and Ro also had his incarnation, embodiment of freedom. This technique had the same profundity as the World Tao verification technique. Later, when Ro was defeated in the war between Taoists and demons, he used this technique to cut off Hongjuan's thoughts of destroying the roots. He established the heavenly demon sky. From then on, Taoism disappeared and demons grew. Because Ro's dojo was on Mount Meru, he had created embodiment of freedom there, so he left some remnants of his power there. Later, it was here that he used embodiment of freedom to prove his Tao through dreams. This was also the reason why Buddhism and demon sects were entangled. Buddhism was Tao because they both came from the purple clouds. One thought to become a Buddha, one thought to become a demon because of embodiment of freedom and Tao through dreams. The Buddhist sects not only inherited the legacy of the Taoist sects, but they also inherited the orthodoxy of the demon sections. His embodiment of freedom had not been refined to the extreme by Ro. Otherwise, he would have proven his Tao long ago. Even so, Ro did not want to defeat Hongjun. They just wanted to hold him back. This was not a problem at all. Seems like I still need to take action. Yang Mei had already rushed over from the East Sea. Under Hongjun Tiandao's guidance, Hongjun had also invited him, just in case. Originally, when Yang Mei saw 5 Elements' old ancestor and the others, he thought that he did not have to do anything, and was a little disappointed. After all, this was related to the game between him and Hongjun Tiandao and the recovery of his injuries. Fortunately, Ro was quite powerful and unexpectedly fierce. Although Yang Mei was not clear about what was happening in the fairy slaying sword formation, he could feel that the sword formation's aura was getting stronger and stronger. Clearly, the situation was good for Ro. He was happy to see this happen. Otherwise, how would he have a chance to intervene and make Hongjun Tiandao owe him a favor and earn merit points? If he did not take what heaven gave him, he would be punished. Chapter 895. Seeing is believing. Seeing is better than hearing about it. Mosquito Daoran, who had transformed into a scavenger, also felt the changes in the fairy slaying sword formation and couldn't help but sigh. Ro was a failure in its original trajectory. There were only 3 things that people could remember about it. Firstly, it was because of the fairy slaying sword formation. Secondly, it evolved into the extraterrestrial demon. When the Tao disappeared, the demon grew. Lastly, it self-destructed and destroyed the Western ancestral vein. However, only after experiencing it personally and facing Ro did one know that dragons don't coexist with snakes. As a rival of Hongjun, how could Ro be belittled? One Taoist had thought that it would be a piece of cake for Hongjun to break the immortal killing sword formation with the help of the patriarchs of 5 Elements and the others. Without the immortal killing sword formation, although Laho's cultivation was profound, he would be like a grasshopper after autumn under the siege of the patriarchs of 5 Elements and the others. He was still wondering what was going on. In the end, Hongjun was the only one left. According to the previous development of the script, Elder 5 Elements and the rest should have the last laugh like Hongjun. How did they die? Under what circumstances did Ro self-destruct? Could it be that Hongjun played a dishonorable role in this? Unexpectedly, Ro's strength exploded and had such a trump card. Sure enough, it lived up to its reputation. However, Mosquito Daoran didn't take it to heart after a short while. Now, he was focused on cleaning up the desolation. These were all resources. Who cares if they fight to the death? Even if the sky falls, there would be someone higher to hold it up. Whether he could break through to the peak of Quasi-Sage as soon as possible would depend on this harvest. If it didn't work out in the end, he could still sell a favor to Hongjun Tiandao, like Yang Mei, and earn a portion of karma. In this way, he would be more justified in sharing the treasures with Hongjun. However, it's time to prepare. Mosquito, Daoran muttered to himself. He didn't forget that the purpose of coming out this time was not only to collect cultivation resources for himself, but also to find a proper identity for Fong Qingshan. Now that Ro had used their trump card, Old Ancestor 5 Elements and the others would not be able to hold on for much longer. It was time for him to make his move. Otherwise, if not even a speck of the five elements' old ancestor was left, it would be over. With that thought in mind, Mosquito Dowran immediately steered the timeless arc toward the fairy, slaying sword formation in the west. Back in the array formation, although the four array gates were being held back by five elements' old ancestor and the others, their methods were also being restrained by the array formation. Moreover, within the formation, they were naturally suppressed and could only display 70% of their strength. This was especially so now that they were in the midst of a great tribulation. The Great Tribulation's baleful aura produced by the battle between the three races was refined into the four immortal slaying swords. The formation's power was strengthened, and the suppression they received was even greater. Under such circumstances, five elements' old ancestor and the others were suffering unspeakably from the four spiritual monkeys of chaos. Ancestor heaven and earth and yin yang were fine. After all, the two of them had primordial supreme treasures with them. One had the cauldron of heaven and earth above his head, and the other had the Tai Chi golden bridge under his feet. Although they were suppressing the array gates, they could still barely protect them. After all, they were primordial supreme treasures with unparalleled defense. Five elements, old ancestor and ancestor reversal, were unlucky. In the face of the crazy attacks of the monkeys, especially these monkeys who could split into thousands of clones, their strength was not weak. When they wantonly attacked, they could shake the heavens and stir up all things in the universe. Once they were hit, they really could not bear it. Moreover, these monkeys seemed to be born to fight. The more they fought, the more excited they became, and the more ferocious they became. Sometimes when they were injured by the counterattacks of five elements' old ancestor and the others, not only did it not reduce their combat power, but also made them even more crazy. Long Zhanyue's blood was black and yellow. One cannot become a Buddha without going crazy. The four monkeys were like puppets. They did not know fear at all and dodged. Sometimes, even if they were injured, they would still fight back against five elements and the others. It was as if they would die together if they did not let them have an easy time. Five elements and the others were so angry that they flew into a rage, but there was nothing they could do. The fighting will of the four spiritual monkeys of chaos was like the blue waves of the sea. Each wave was higher than the one before, and it kept surging. Every time it surged, it would become endless nourishment for the great furnace of fighting will. It rapidly increased their fighting strength. The aura of their bodies became more and more terrifying. A wave of monstrous fighting was swept out. Chi and blood were like smoke, stirring the nine heavens. Even through the immortal slaying sword formation, people could feel it. It was not surprising. The original bodies of the four spiritual monkeys of chaos were the people who clamored to arm wrestle with Pangu. If it were not for the terrifying will of fighting the world, which was completely integrated into every inch of their flesh and blood, how would they have the courage to fight with Pangu? Not only was Pangu not dead, but he was still suppressing desolation. Even Hongjun Tiandao had to retreat. In order to completely control desolation, they did not hesitate to plot against Wu people and break Mount Buzhou. Although the four spiritual monkeys of chaos were no longer the chaos demonic apes, five elements and the others were not Pangu. One could not be tough for long, and one could not be soft for long. Without a defensive treasure, five elements and Patriarch Reversal were careless under the crazy attacks of the four spiritual monkeys of chaos. They were careless and fell into the trap. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. The first to go wrong was Patriarch Reversal. Patriarch Five Elements did not have a connate cardinal defensive treasure, but because the five elements had an advantage in defense compared to the reversal Dharma, he lasted a little longer. But Patriarch Reversal was not so lucky. It was unknown whether there was a problem with the circulation of his Dharma power or the recovery. The old power had just passed, but the new power had not yet been generated. The monkey seized the opportunity and injured him with a blow of the stick. While he was down, he was dead. Tens of thousands of cudgel strikes followed closely behind, covering the sky and covering the earth. It was as if the entire void had been blown apart. Serves patriarch reversal right for this calamity. Due to the critical attack, the chaos flag wrapped around his body had dimmed and was on the verge of collapse. When it rains, it pours. At this moment, patriarch reversal was exhausted and focused on maintaining the defense of the chaos flag. The immortal extinguishing sword, which was suppressed by the ruler of order, suddenly found an opportunity. Like a venomous snake coming out of its lair, it ruthlessly dealt a fatal blow to patriarch reversal. It was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Patriarch reversal, who had 1 foot dangling from the edge of the cliff, was completely defeated. The chaos flag wailed and fell from the top of patriarch reversal's head. Without the chaos flag's defense, both the immortal extinguishing sword chi and the chaos bronze stick's attacks landed with undiminished force. Boom! Thinking back to what had happened, the entire void had exploded. Even a supreme defensive treasure like the flag of chaos released sonorous noises. It was on the verge of collapse, and sparks flew everywhere. Every single spark was more dazzling than the sun, burning through, distorting the void, and then piercing through, revealing a deathly pale expanse. One could imagine how it felt to be hit by patriarch reversal. Patriarch reversal was not a body cultivator like Zhu Wu. His physical defense could not be compared to a spiritual treasure. Chapter 896. At that moment, patriarch reversal was like a kite with a broken string. He was sent flying thousands of miles away, like a ball being kicked. His body was like a cracked porcelain that was filled with hideous cracks. Blood gushed out like a fountain and shot out like a volcano eruption. The slightest move could affect everything. Qian Kun, Hong Jun, and the others sensed at the moment something happened to patriarch reversal. Firstly, they were connected to each other's auras. Secondly, the might of the immortal eradication formation increased with the incident. Watch out! How dare you! Get out of the way! Sensing that something had happened to patriarch reversal, Qian Kun and the others wanted to save him out of humanitarianism, friendship, or for their own safety. Unfortunately, Hong Jun had been dragged into Paranirvana by Ro. The other 3 monkeys and the 3 sword gates were not to be trifled with. It would be difficult for them to even release a clone, let alone escape with their main body. Unless they could break the formation gate before patriarch reversal was in trouble, they might have a chance of survival. Unfortunately, even if it was Hong Jun and Yang Mei, they would not be able to do it within a short period of time. Distant water could not quench present thirst. Therefore, everything was in vain. It was better to chase after a cornered enemy than to become a tyrant. The monkeys and the immortal eradication sword formation who had the upper hand gave chase, not giving patriarch reversal a chance to catch his breath. The golden ape raised his 1,000-pound cudgel, clearing the area. Sword chi traversed 30,000 miles, and a single sword light froze 19 provinces. The sword chi and cudgel wind intertwined, leaving no gaps. Damn it! Patriarch reversal panicked at the sight of the immortal eradication sword and 1,000-pound cudgel. The shadow of death followed him like a shadow, and he could already smell it. He was the reincarnation of the demon god reversal and had obtained the legacy of the chaos fiend celestial. He was born with 2 top-notch Khanate spiritual treasures, the chaos flag and the ruler of order. His cultivation level rose rapidly, and he had almost no bottlenecks before chaotic essence. He was also on good terms with Wuxing and Hong Jun. Even when the dragon and phoenix swept through the world of desolation, they were still able to live a carefree and transcendent life. His life had been smooth sailing, but he did not expect that one setback would cost him his life. Rise. Although it was like the final radiance of a setting sun, with thousands of thoughts running through his mind, Inversion did not give up. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Immediately, the chaos flag shone brightly, and an aura that could topple all living things spread out. The flag fluttered in the air. At the same time, the ruler of order erupted with an aura of eternal peace and prosperity. Originally, the Chaos Flag and the Ruler of Order were supposed to be at odds with each other. However, at this moment, they protected each other above their heads at the same time, like two yin and yang fishes in Tai Chi, complementing and restraining each other perfectly. However, it was useless. At this moment, the immortal extinguishing formation gate was no longer suppressed by the Ruler of Order. The power of the entire immortal slaying sword formation had greatly increased, and correspondingly, the suppression on Upside Down and the others was also greater. Now that Patriarch Reversal had been severely injured, the Chaos Flag had been overwhelmed. Although he was using his blood essence to forcefully draw it out, it was no different from quenching his thirst with poison. Under such circumstances, it did not take long for the Patriarch Reversal to reach his limit. The perfect Tai Chi diagram formed by the Ruler of Order and the Flag of Chaos was broken, and the attacks continued to fall. This time, Patriarch Reversal did not even have the chance to dodge or struggle. First, he was stabbed by the immortal extinguished sword, which pierced through his chest. The devilish, blood-red, and eerie black sword tip not only pierced through his body, but the immortal extinguished chi emitted from the sword even penetrated his Naiwan palace and corroded his primordial spirit. However, in a short moment, the great mystical abilities that had existed since the creation of the world, the person with great luck who had almost stepped into the primordial chaos, died just like that and completely disappeared from the primordial world. Not even a trace of true spirit was left behind. Only the Chaos Flag and the Ruler of Order were left floating in the array. Reversal. When Patriarch Reversal died, the five elements, Yin Yang and Qian Kun, immediately felt it. Their hearts were filled with sorrow, and tears streamed down their cheeks. They could not help but slow down their attacks. Although they were good friends with Hong Jun, they had a deeper relationship with each other. How many years had it been? They had agreed to pursue the great path together and coexist with the heavens. Now, things had turned upside down, and they had left one step ahead of them. The grief and indignation in their hearts were indescribable. Although it was said that an army burning with righteous indignation was bound to win, that was only in rare cases. Most of the time, it could easily lead to exhaustion and distraction. When experts exchanged blows, victory or defeat was decided in an instant. The five elements was the same as Reversal. He was already flustered, and because of the Patriarch Reversal, he revealed a flaw. The monkey and the fairy slaying sword seized the opportunity, and soon he followed in the footsteps of Reversal. The fall of Reversal was like a domino, and the balance was instantly broken. Just as the five elements Patriarch was about to be crushed by the fairy slaying sword Chi and the monkey's 15-ton cudgel, something strange happened. However, in the void, a divine bridge suddenly flew over and froze the array for a moment. Then a beam of divine light shone down, engulfing the five elements Patriarch and his ultimate treasure. Then it shrank back in an instant and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ro obviously did not expect such a sudden turn of events. Who's there? As the owner of the fairy slaying sword formation, Ro was naturally aware of the changes in the formation. He did not expect that someone would take advantage of the situation and save the five elements Patriarch at this time. Of course, this was not the main point. He did not care about a half-crippled five elements Patriarch. What made Ro's attention was the person who had saved the five elements Patriarch. Who was he? Why did he save the five elements Patriarch? Was he a friend or foe? Could it be that other than the five elements Patriarch and the others, Hong Jun has other helpers? Ro secretly guessed. Damn it, he knew that he could not drag this on any longer. He had originally thought that other than defeating the Patriarch Reversal and breaking the balance of Hong Jun and the others, as long as he followed the prescribed order, victory would be in sight. However, he did not know that there were still people hiding in the dark. Rose suddenly had a bad premonition. However, regardless of whether Hong Jun had other helpers, or if there were other situations, even if there were unexpected complications, he could only deal with the others in the fairy slaying sword formation first. To deal with external threats, he had to first stabilize the internal situation. Therefore, Ro did not care anymore. He directly let the two monkeys who were free attack Qian Kuan and Yin Yang as fast as they could. On the other hand, Hong Jun, who was trapped in the free transformation heaven, felt at ease at this moment. When he was killed, he could not help but feel his heart skip a beat. At this moment, he thought that Yang Mei had come. A hint of fierceness flashed in his eyes when he looked at Ro, thinking that he had seen the dawn of victory. Yang Mei was the only person in Hong Jun who could not see through. After all, he was a chaos demon god and a space demon god. If not for Hong Jun Tiandao's guidance, Hong Jun would not have known that there was a demon god who had escaped from the great trial of creation and was hiding in the desolation heaven. Although he was seriously injured, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. At least, when faced with Yang Mei, Hong Jun felt that his hands and feet were tied. He knew that if they really fought, it was very likely that he would not be a match for Yang Mei. Chapter 897. Most of the time, although there was no real fight, telepathy would not be wrong. Hong Jun felt that he was no match for Yang Mei. Not to mention now, even after he became a sage, it was the same. And this feeling was confirmed not long after. After Hong Jun became a sage, he was the first sage since the creation of the world. At that time, Ro, Ancestral Dragon, Wuxing, and the others were all dead. There was no one who could surpass him or be on par with him. There was no one who was worthy of him fighting. It was lonely at the top, except for Yang Mei. Whether it was because of Hong Jun Tiandao's will, unwilling to let a destructive and uncontrollable chaos demon god stay in the desolation, or because of his own considerations, or because his opponent was rare, or because he was lying on the bed, he had no choice but to fight with Yang Mei. That was also the only time Hong Jun failed, and it was a terrible defeat. He used all his means, but couldn't do anything to Yang Mei. It didn't matter if it was divine power or spiritual treasure, the three corpses, or the purple cloud heavenly thunder. Whether it was the four immortal swords or the three treasures of creation. Even Yang Mei was like Kong Xian. With one move, he could dominate the world. He used his spatial mystical ability and dealt with it easily. In the end, almost all of Hong Jun's treasures were taken away by Yang Mei. The five-colored holy light, diamond ring, and tree of seven wonders were nothing in front of Yang Mei's space divine power. If it wasn't for Hong Jun Tiandao, if it wasn't for Yang Mei not wanting to become enemies with Hong Jun Tiandao, the consequences would have been unpredictable. Hong Jun naturally didn't know about this. Now, Yang Mei was his trump card against Ro. As for Wuxing Old Ancestor and the others, they were just the pioneers. If Ro didn't provoke Ancestral Dragon and the others, he wouldn't cause a disaster, and he wouldn't have a reason to deal with Ro. After all, he represented the righteous path, and he had to have a good reason. If it wasn't for Wuxing and the others, how could they have broken the fairy-slaying sword formation so easily? Steady and sure, advancing step by step. Although the five elements were in trouble, Yang Mei had arrived. With Yang Mei's help and Hong Jun's confidence in his own abilities, as well as his premonition that the celestial eradication sword formation would be broken soon, he knew that he had at least a 70% chance of winning this battle, even if he did not have a 90% chance of winning. In the immortal execution formation, there were Qian Kun and Yin Yang. Before he could walk out of the reversal of death, he discovered that the five elements had also been poisoned. For a moment, the entire sky seemed to darken. More importantly, although they had connate cardinal treasures, they could still deal with it for now. However, the prerequisite was that the five elements were reversed. Now that the two of them had fallen, how could they, who were already stretched thin, be a match for the two monkeys? His best friend was dead, and he could not see any hope for the future. The two of them could not help but slow down. Then, the Yin-Yang patriarch saw that the immortal slaughtering sword Qi was like a needle that pierced through every opening and attacked. Without the restraint of the five elements and the others, even if the two monkeys had not arrived, the immortal slaughtering sword Qi attacking him was more than twice as dense as before. The sword chi flew around in a disorderly manner, but it seemed to follow some kind of great Tao. In a short while, the yin-yang patriarch was hit by the sword chi several times. Once injured in the formation, it was a nightmare. His dermic powers could not be recovered, and the formation suppressed him. His circulation was also a little sluggish. After being injured, his dermic powers were consumed even more, and he had to use them to suppress his injuries. Moreover, because the sword chi was difficult to deal with, he could not destroy it in one go. This formed a vicious cycle. The yin-yang patriarch felt more and more strained. Although the Tai Chi diagram did not collapse, the number of times he vomited blood was increasing, and his dermic powers were also drying up. The yin-yang patriarch knew that he probably would not survive today. All his experiences since splitting open the sky appeared in front of his eyes. He even seemed to see the reversal and the 5 elements waving at him. He had cultivated for countless yuan hui, and with a supreme treasure like the Tai Chi diagram accompanying him, it could be said that he was not much weaker than Ro Hongjun and the others. It was a pity that fate played tricks on people. His luck was not deep enough, and he could not survive this tribulation. He could only turn into ashes. At the thought of this, a crack appeared in his mind, which he had cultivated for hundreds of millions of years. The more flaws he revealed, the faster and sharper the attacks of the immortal slaughtering sword and 15-ton cudgel. However, at this moment, the yin-yang patriarch could no longer care about these. He seemed to be completely immersed in grief, indignation, and anger. He was completely unaware of his injuries and his life. No matter how the sword chi and cudgel hit him, his face was distorted and a strange red glow flashed in his eyes. He was originally a carefree and sage-like Taoist, but now he seemed to be not much weaker than Ro. He was a living devil. At a certain moment, the yin-yang patriarch seemed to have gained enlightenment, and he suddenly laughed out loud. It was just that the voice was frightening to hear. Then, without any warning, the yin-yang patriarch self-destructed. No one had expected this, not just Ro, but Hongjun as well. No, for Ro, the yin-yang patriarch's self-destruction was a nightmare. For Hongjun, although they were a little sad, they were also secretly delighted. Rumble. It was earth-shattering. A dazzling mushroom cloud rose, and a black hole formed and expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. The entire immortal slaughtering sword formation was shaken. The horrifying destructive power swept in all directions. The yin-yang patriarch was in existence at the peak of the sage-to-be. Even if Ro were to face his self-destruction head-on, it would be severely injured, if not killed. For a moment, horrifying cracks appeared in the self-destruction. Heavenly fire set the prairie ablaze, storms swept, Milky Way fell from the 9 heavens, mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and the earth collapsed. Together with the black hole, the ultimate destructive power was unleashed to 100%. Damn it! Sensing this, Ro was so angry that it almost let Hongjun seize the opportunity to escape. At that time, the ship would be late, and the wind would hit them, adding hail to snow, and the situation would be even worse. Therefore, although Luo Ho was anxious, he had to calm his mind. First, he consolidated his free transformation and did not let Hongjun cause trouble. Then, with a thought, the 4 spiritual monkeys of chaos did not care about killing Ancestor Chinquan anymore. They flew toward the formation door, ready to suppress the formation with the 4 immortal slaying swords. The idea was beautiful, but the reality was cruel. First, the yin-yang patriarch's self-destruction. The immortal slaughtering sword and monkey bore the brunt. For a moment, the entire immortal slaughtering sword was half destroyed. Monkey had basically lost the ability to fight. Although he became braver after being injured, he still had a limit. The fact that he didn't turn into ashes under the yin-yang patriarch's self-destruction was already a testament to his strong physical body. If he could still fight, wouldn't it be too heaven-defying? Besides, Ro had only wanted to stall Hongjun and stabilize the formation, but he had forgotten about the Chinquan patriarch. What was more unexpected was that the Chinquin patriarch had given up so easily. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.